In the shadows of a past we've known, two souls lost, but we found our way home. Through the whispers of doubt we learned to stand. With a love so bright we've walked hand in hand. You cracked the walls with your laughter so free. I'm the strength in the storms, we're a symphony. With every step we rise above the pain, breaking generational chains. We're born again. We're the fire lighting up the night. Together we shine, it's our hearts in flight. With notes to self, we're writing our song. In this world of chaos, we know where we belong. Oh, we're changing lives, breaking through the fear. A power couple, together we're here.
Hey everyone.
Hi guys.
Hopefully you guys could hear that song. I think we could on our end, so I think that's exciting. So come on. Look, there we go. Now we're caught up. How is everybody doing tonight? We're so excited tonight. I think is going to be a really good book club. We wanted to give you guys just a little clip of that song. We're still trying to figure out how to get it into our videos, but the only way we knew how to do it was do a picture-in-picture and then share it live, I guess. But we had it on preview there for a minute. We're still figuring this out. We've done a ton of classes already.
We're getting so much better.
I know. So, but we thought we'd give you guys just a little snippet of it. When our daughter made it for us, yeah, it wrecked us both. We both just sat and had a good cry. We're like, what the heck? So she did a great job writing it. Yeah, she texted to us and said, oh my gosh, did somebody write a song about you guys? And we're like, what? So we start listening to it. And then she told us that she had made it through AI, but she typed in like the parameters of it and then made it through AI. And I'm like, oh, so we're both crying. Like, you think that about us? Thank you.
Yeah, that's the best part of it is, yeah, I wouldn't have connected that song to us. I did hear the notes to self part, but I'm like, oh, I don't. But then when it's her words that she kind of wrote up in the parameters, I'm like, oh, she thinks of us like that. That is amazing. So yeah, it touched us deeply. It was amazing.
Yeah. Are we sounding echoey and underwater?
Yeah.
We got a new computer. Yeah. So AI actually wrote it and sang it. So she has a editing system that she paid for that is AI. So we won't have any copyright violations or anything like that. So she wrote that for us. But yeah, when she sent it to us, I was like, oh my gosh, we were already exhausted from Montana and we both sat and had a good cry. Says Cory, turned it up a bit, you soft-spoken guy, you.
Oh, I'm up. I think everybody can hear me when I talk, but yeah, I thought it sounded a little echoey on the test too. So
yeah, let us know if you guys are still having issues with it. We still can't figure out our chat yet, where we can put the chat up on the screen. We're still working on that. So be patient with us when we're trying to read your comments.
Yeah.
We got a whole new computer system set up. It's crazy town in here. We've got a couple screens and all sorts of monitors. Maybe one day I'll do on our Instagram, I'll put a behind the scenes where you can kind of see, oh, somebody's switching to the TV because of the sound. Dang it. Are we having sound issues? I hope we're not. That's part of like having a whole new system set up. We had the other one down where we just had to turn it on and it worked. But so this book we just went through this morning and listened to the entire thing as we highlighted and copied in the book from chapter 6. And until till the end of chapter 10. So this one is going to be a good one, I think. So
does that sound better? So
Yeah.
Melanie moved some things around and she was pushing buttons, and so I'm going through and trying to get it back into the sound.
I'm like, oh crud, I hit a button. I don't know which button I hit. So yeah, thank you guys but if it gets too much, let us know and we'll try to fix it. Like if it's too echoey, because we don't want it to be that way throughout the whole video.
Sounding fine.
Yeah. Okay. So
my notes.
Yeah, we both have. So here we have our book that's highlighted. As you can see it, it's highlighted in a million different highlights, and our lottery tickets we got when we went to Montana. So, and then we each have a notebook that we've also written down notes on. Let's see. Somebody says they can hear the echo from the room. Let me just see if I can have an echo cancellation. Let me just see if nope, I can't do that. Sorry, I'm just gonna see. Sounds fine, better for sure. Thank you okay. Somebody says, I don't think the mics are on. We are on and we're all hooked up. We're hooked up exactly how we were before, but for some reason
we touched buttons that we weren't supposed to.
When he says that, he means Mel touched buttons she wasn't supposed to. So, okay. Well, a lot of people are saying that it looks good. So, this book is bringing up a lot of emotion for all of us. As we read through it, because it hits home so much for so many of us that have lived this way. My mom's been staying with us for the weekend. She's on the live. If you can see it, I point to the screen like you can see our screen. We have the chat up on a big screen in front of us. But she was staying with us for the weekend. We went and actually did a silent or peaceful protesting on Sunday for polygamists here in Salt Lake. And when we went to that, we actually took a drive and went and drove around the compound area that Christine talks about in here, because I grew up there quite frequently. I visited there and taught primary there for years. And so we kind of just drove around. It looks so completely different. We weren't even sure if we could still find it because we hadn't been there in 25 years. But yeah, that was really interesting to be able to go through that. It looks so different now. All the yards are fenced off, so it doesn't feel friendly like it used to. It used to be very friendly and inviting area where you could come and there was a big common area. We would all play volleyball there. We would all do.
Well, it was an open compound, so everybody was coming and it was all the families together. Now that they've kind of subdivided it, they put up the fences to put in. It's interesting too, because Pinesdale was that way too. Everything open, but now as people are starting to get properties and they're putting up fences and shutting it down. So it's just a new way of living.
Yeah. So it's kind of sad to visit it because it does just look so totally different. So one thing before we get started too is, as we read this book, we are really we stop. How many times did we stop? A dozen today. Just we're so grateful for the healing that we've done. We're so grateful for the healing that as we read this book, it brings up a lot of emotion, but it brings up a lot of gratitude for us too, that we are no longer in the belief system that Christine shares in here, that we're no longer believing that we have to earn the love from a partner, that we have to, and that can be tricky when I said it like that. Yes, we want to show up and love our partners the way we want to, but you shouldn't have to give an hour massage to be loved. And so as we're reading through this, we're just so grateful that our relationship, that we've healed, that our relationship is where it's at, that our children, that we were able to teach our children something totally different.
That we're working together as a team. We don't have a leader or a prophet or a priesthood holder that trumps what the other person. We're communicating, we're working together as a team, raising kids, living our life, doing things like that, where we grew up in a society where you always had to check in. You were
Yeah.
always trying to gain the love of a priesthood holder, prophet, whatever. And if you didn't follow the laws exactly right or the way they felt you needed to, then you would lose that love.
Mhm.
You would lose that.
Love was very
connection.
conditional.
It was.
It was very, very conditional growing up. And I think that that's what's so hard reading some of this book, is just to see how conditional she was in here. So we want to remind everybody to please do their healing work.
Yeah.
With everything that's been going on in the world, all over the place. Please do your healing work, because you do deserve to heal. You do deserve to come out of things and see that you're worthy, that you are every bit as worthy as anyone else to be loved, to give and receive love. And yeah, we are just so grateful as we read through this book that because I resonate so, empathy is something when you can understand how someone else feels because you felt it before. That is exactly how I feel as I read some of her stuff. So we're going to be reading chapter 6 through all the way to chapter 11. So we'll read all the way through chapter 10.
We're remembering, a lot of this brings back memories of a former life that we used to live. So, and how much we have changed in our thought patterns, in the way we do many things now. So.
Yeah. And so, and as I read Christine's words, my mom has even said this too. We talked a lot about it this weekend, is that her story and my mom's story are so very similar in the way that they did things, in the way that they handled things. It's very, very similar. And so my mom just got finished reading the book as well. So we did talk about that quite a bit. So let's dive right into it. Yep. So we're on chapter 6, and so we listened to the book live as we read through the book and highlighted all the things that we wanted to make sure that we talked to you guys about. And so we'll go through chapter 6, and then we'll just answer any questions if anyone wants to, have any different questions about it, or if we missed something in the chapter that you wanted us to make sure that we covered. And so we start chapter 6 with I associated them with pain. I believe when she says this, she's speaking about her garments. And so it starts out, sister wives aren't supposed to have any special privileges based on the order of marriage.
But they do.
Absolutely, they do. And she says, since Mary was the first wife, she had the easiest wedding. She had the biggest dress. She had the cake, the dancing with all the pictures and all the photos. That didn't include all the extra wives. That hurts my heart that she didn't get a better picture of her and Cody on her wedding day without sister wives in it. They have the one, I think, that they show all the time. It's always posted. Oh, you know what? We never have even looked. I know that there's photos in the back of the book. Oh yeah, I've never even gone through them. I wonder if that photo's in here. Oh yeah, right there. Okay. Yeah, I've never even gone through all these photos. So I don't see one in here with her and Cody on her wedding day. Oh, that's tragic. But I do see one of her and David, which is awesome. And then the first wife, what?
Her real wedding day.
Her real wedding day. But she talks about how the first wife is the legal wife, and Mary and Cody established themselves as a couple. Not all first wives are legal wives. I was the first wife, and my ex-husband and I had decided that we were not going to have a legal wife so that everything was fair across the board. So we never legally got married. So not every first wife becomes the legal wife. After a while, again, I filed legal divorce because we were common law married. Utah has a common law state. But we just didn't want to establish the fact that there was a dominance, or if you will. My dad went years without having a legal wife. So not every first wife becomes a legal wife. But she talks about like how hard, I can't even imagine how hard that would be to not be an established wife. You're not able to go to work functions. You're not able to do all of the things that most couples do.
Well, that's the privilege of the first wife, or the legal wife.
Right.
So that is one of the privileges, is you get to step outside into the world and represent you and your family as you're a good married couple. So
Right.
where the other wives are kind of the hidden secret. So
Well, and there's got to be some emotional trauma that comes with being like, are you the dirty secret? Are you the hidden secret? Are you the naughty secret? What are you? And I think it depends on the level of trauma that you've experienced in your life, is how you're going to perceive yourself in this situation. Are you going to be, you know what I mean? Or are you the illegal wife? Are you the whatever wife?
well,
So-
no, there's also judgment too. I noticed judgment within inside of our group if there was somebody that a young wife that didn't have a father or didn't have a husband around but had kids, they would be judged until you found out, oh, okay, they are.
This is why they don't
this
have a
is why they
father.
don't. Yeah. So there was even families that. So I can imagine they are feeling like they're being judged because here they have 6 kids, but there's no dad around. So.
Yeah.
But like she says later in the book, nobody cares. Nobody on the outside cares. But we assume, since we judged within the group other people outside of the group, that they were judging likewise.
Yeah.
A lot of times they don't even care. Don't even know.
I think now in today's society, we're
Yeah.
becoming more and more where people don't care, but
Yeah.
back then it did matter. This was in the early 90s. She got married in 94. And back then there was a lot more scrutiny, if you will, about family situations. Now it's like live and let live so often. But it would be hard to be feeling like you're a mistress of some sort. There's a little bug in here, sorry. But Mary and Cody had established themselves as the fun couple. They were the couple that everybody looked up to. And so one of the things she talks about, Janelle coming into the family, and Janelle would sit on one couch while Cody and Mary sat on another couch and held hands under a blanket. That is what is, how tragic for Janelle to experience that, because they don't know what they're doing.
Mm-mm.
They're all a bunch of 19, 20. Well, I guess they would have been in their early 20s. They don't know what they're doing. They're making it up as they go along, and something doesn't feel right. But who do you go to talk to about that? And if you do go talk to a matriarch or a patriarch in the religion, you're told to fix yourself, work on yourself, make yourself, whatever. So Janelle felt, I highlighted the fact that she felt like she was an imposter. And then and Christine just showed up as another wife to live in their 3-bedroom trailer in Wyoming. Like, oh my gosh, can you imagine? I can't even imagine living in a trailer where the walls are paper thin. There's no
Privacy.
Thank you. That was the word I was going for, because it's like my mind is totally blown about it. But she talks about how in the first couple of years, everything was just so, she came in and she was the equilibrium. Cody tells her that she's the equilibrium. So when she married Cody, she had no idea that that Janelle and Mary didn't get along. Most people don't know these things. When you don't get along with a sister wife, there's a lot of shame that comes along with that. So you just don't say anything. You show up at church with a smile on your face. You are the epitome of keep sweet. Like, you would never guess the physical violence that can happen between sister wives. I literally knew of a sister wife situation where one wife pulled another wife down the stairs by her hair on a weekend. By Sunday afternoon, they're at church smiling at each other because they don't want anyone to know that this has happened. So this is very, very common because there's so much shame in the fact that if you can't get along with a sister wife, what's wrong with you? So what are you laughing at?
No, nothing. Just if a sister wife shows up with a black eye, it could be the husband or it could be the other sister wife. So
Right.
You just don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know where the domestic violence comes from.
Right. Well,
I'm joking. So
no, he is, but he's not, because this is very true. And so I don't want to believe that there's a lot of physical violence that happens in these families, but I've seen it myself. I've heard of it myself. I have I've experienced it in my own personal family. And so there is a lot of, unfortunately, this stuff that happens.
Well, and you could, so if the families were separate, living in their own homes, then you would probably assume if there was an accident, so, or that it was probably an argument between the husband and wife, but where they're all living in the same house, it's up to, you don't know. So
well, and what a huge responsibility for Christine. She comes in as a 19-year-old wife, and she's got to be the peacemaker. She's got to be the moderator between these two wives that can't get along, who didn't even want to be in the same room as each other. Like, what a way to add. Here she's even just trying to develop a relationship with Cody. She's trying to develop a relationship with Mary and Janelle, and yet now she's got this huge responsibility or burden of showing that she can moderate the family. Like, how crazy is that? But yeah, so then she talks about how they were just young, and a lot of what they went through was just nonsense. I really struggled with that. And so she just chose to be positive and chose trying to keep adding fun to the life. I struggle with some of that, and here's why I do. Because when we get upset about something, it's a trigger for us. It helps us to it's never about the other person. It's always about us. What about us? What about me? This is one thing we talked about earlier today. This is when we did ayahuasca. This is one of the things that we learned. If something upsets you about someone else, what is happening inside of you that makes you triggered by that makes you upset about that? And in this religion, as a woman, you don't always get to look at that with your partner. You can look at that with your sister wives all day long because she's going to piss you off daily. But you don't get that opportunity to look at that. Like Cory just, like the way he rolls toilet paper sometimes just irks the crap out of me. Oh, that was a bad word to use. But
they were building, that's the interesting part. They're building more relationships as sister wives than they were with their husband even. I mean, and she points out here that she remembers Cody and Mary being volcanic when they were arguing and stuff like that. And so here she's learning how to, not necessarily, yes, she's learning how Cody works, how he thinks, things like that, but she's working on seeing how the other wives are reacting, how to stay out of frustration and anger with the other wives. And so this was here you're starting brand new in a marriage, all four of them raising kids together, and it can get volcanic. And this was the life I grew up in too. So they were learning what they were doing as they were going along. Yes, I had an older father, but yeah, still there were disagreements within the house, and we all lived in the same house. So.
Well, and that's the hard part for me about this chapter particularly, is that it's talking about how she establishes her relationship with her sister wives. And that's the part that I guess I struggle with a little bit, is because it's like it's not really about her establishing a relationship with her husband. And Cory and I we had a lot of conversations today, didn't we? We were talking earlier about creation energy and how creation energy is done with between a husband and a wife. How does that creation energy create, what's possible with that kind of creation energy? What's possible with creation energy between woman to woman too? But she talks about how naive most of them were, and how their earlier days were so hard, mostly because of personalities. Some of it was situation, and some of it was just they were so young. And so so it's almost like she had to create that relationship with her sister wives before she could even really develop this relationship with Cody. And how do you do that when one of these women is her words exactly are volcanic with your husband? How do you find that balance? she talks about how hard it was for her to come into this situation, especially in the trailer, but she can't even imagine how hard it was for Mary, because I think Mary was married to Cody for 2 or 3 years before Janelle came in. So so she's talking about establishing this relationship with her sister wives, and yet she didn't feel like she knew Cody at all. And that is very common, very common in this religion.
Well, she said that the thing that jumped out at me is she thought that Cody was an independent thinker, but soon realized he relied heavily on other people's opinions. And that's probably because here he grew up in the LDS church, you know what I mean? And all of a sudden he's coming into a polygamous situation, and it is not going smooth. It's probably not going the way that he saw his parents, because they didn't become polygamous till later on, you know what I mean? And so he's like, wait a minute, this isn't moving along like I saw it when I was a kid. I was lucky. I got to see this stuff as a kid, and so I got to choose. Yeah, I don't want to live polygamy. It looks too hard. It's too difficult, and it frustrates all parties involved. And sometimes when you put those rose-colored glasses on about your childhood or about how you've seen other people grow up, then you're okay to get into a situation like this because it was the way you're supposed to grow up to get into heaven and all that stuff. But some of us were like, that looks like hell on earth, and we choose no.
Right.
So,
well, and then she talks about Cody being overwhelmed because they didn't have enough money. They fought, and he fought with Mary, and Janelle fought, and he fought with Mary. Mary fought with Janelle, and they fought with each other. And so to me, when you are first married and you establish that relationship, you have intimacy to fall back on. Oh, we're not seeing eye to eye. We don't know what we're doing. We're figuring our way out through this. You can fall back on intimacy with each other, but you can't do that in polygamy because it might not be your night. And 3 nights later, then you might get together. And so you can't create that bond with each other of, I'm so frustrated with you right now. I'm frustrated with my sister wife right now. Let's just go in the bedroom and, hold each other or be close to each other so that we can reconnect. You don't have that option. You don't have that opportunity.
The walls are paper thin, and you really don't want to make too much noise, even though the other sister wife is making all that noise. So
that's okay. Then she talks about the walls being paper thin and how she can hear each other. When Cory's mom first married Cory's dad, same situation. They all lived in a trailer court. They lived, we've talked about this before, they lived in the same trailer court up the street from Robin's family. And you can hear everything. How do you do that? How do you talk? Like, how do you have intimate conversations when you know that you can hear your sister wife? Wouldn't you want to be a little bit quieter? But you can't always do that.
No, you wouldn't. You'd want to make the other sister wife feel like that.
Jealous, envious, like, look how intimate we are. Look how well we can talk. Look how well we can connect. I know that there's been a lot of comments about this, and probably there's some now. I haven't read some of those comments, but they talk about the intimacy with the children in the room, and we're going to get to that. That's just in a different chapter. It sounded as if they were, so she was envious because it sounded as if her sister wives had an actual relationship with him where they talked, they played, they enjoyed each other physically, and she didn't have that with Cody. That's the thing about this is you are in a huge family, but you're all alone. And there's a million people around here, but you're the only one in the room. You're not connected to anyone. You're not intimately connected with anyone. And this is really, truly a lonely lifestyle. It's very lonely. And so she talks about when she was married, she started wearing garments. We've talked about this a lot on our channel too, about what the garments look like. She goes on to them and she talks about how they're down to their wrists. They look like long johns. And then she would, they were to remind us of our covenant that we made in the temple or endowment house. They were supposed to protect us from evil. They had been blessed and are considered sacred, and very much so. I love how she says she loved them because they fit her pious stage so perfectly. That was me. I relate so much to what she's saying. I was unbearable. I don't know how people around me lived with me because I was so pious. They became symbolic of her becoming a woman because she's now married. And they were, but as time went on, she associated them with pain. I understand that so significantly, because then she talks about how you have to wear them all the time, and that she wore them during intimacy, during sex. And but in the church we were raised in, they teach us that you should wear them during sex because you're trying to create the most righteous children. And so you have sex for procreation, you have sex in your garments. But then she talks about how they didn't always wear them during sex. I didn't always wear them, but I would say nine out of 10 times I did. I probably had sex 10 times in 10 years. So that was pretty, I mean, I wore them a lot. But that's what it was. They're a buzzkill. I won't lie. It's hard to get intimate and sexy with somebody when you can't even touch them physically because there's clothes on.
No skin on skin.
Yeah. And so then she talks about no skin on skin. That is one of the most basic, in my opinion, elementary ways to create intimacy is skin on skin. You do that with your babies when they're born. Like, how would you not do that in your
intimacy, but connection?
Yeah. And so then she says that he had her wear lingerie. I had never once wore lingerie in my first marriage, not one time, because it was just, then that would mean that you had sex for pleasure and you weren't supposed to do that. So I never one time wore lingerie. Somebody had given me some in my wedding shower and I was mortified by it. It was like, because I was very pious too. She talks about you're supposed to wear, and I've even said this, she says it right here. People got so after me in the comment section when I said, you're supposed to wear them under swimsuits or wetsuits, even if you're at a public pool. And everyone's like, what the heck? You're not supposed to. And so people came into the comments and said stuff. And she even said it right here in the book. You were supposed to wear them all the time. And
I just point out here that Melanie and Christine, though they were the rich polygamists, we didn't have a public pool to go.
You had a pond.
Swimming to.
Yeah, but that was probably healthier.
Yeah, well, not necessarily, but yeah, we had a river, ponds, things like that. You just didn't get to go to a public pool. And she talks about families going to the restaurant or to movies together and how large groups. I'm like,
you guys had money for movies?
Yeah,
we were
I
broke.
don't remember going to a restaurant when I was a kid, other than in my 8th grade, my grandparents, I graduated 8th grade up in Pinesdale, and my grandparents took my mom and dad and myself, and but nobody else to a restaurant. And I was amazed to go to a restaurant for the first time, kind of.
Yeah.
We'd done fast food once or twice, but that was usually the drive-through. So
yeah,
I didn't see, we didn't do the restaurant thing growing up. We didn't do the movies. They had movie night over at the big building.
Mm-hmm.
So where all the polygamists got together. So
yeah. And see, and that's, so she talks about garments are as practical for sex because it's hot, it's messy, and you end up with a garment wedgie. If you don't know what the garments look like, just Google original Mormon garments, and you'll see pictures of them. They're a one piece, like what was the long johns, but it's a one piece. You step into them, you bring them up over your shoulders, and it's just a full one piece thing. They're cut in the back, so you can pull them apart, sit down, and go to the bathroom, or you can have a baby in them, or you can be intimate in them. But they are garment wedgies. You did get garment wedgies a lot. I did, at least. But I was sad that she said that she felt like he always wanted her covered. And I'm sad for her for that, because I do remember that. My ex-husband did say that to me after I had my first child. He says, I can never see you naked again. It's so grotesque to me. You're going to have to wear your garments all the time. I don't want to see you undressed. I was 17 and had just had a baby the day before. I stood there like I didn't even know what to say. I just cried and cried and cried because I felt so I felt like now I'm ugly. Now I have nothing. I'm a 17-year-old girl with an ugly body. So I wore my garments more as a protection for myself than I did as a and as a way to maybe, because like she said, they're not sexy. And so she talks about how she lost herself in that first year, and it took her years to feel sexy again. And I absolutely understand that. I was never taught anything. This is just not something we were taught. Never taught anything about preventative measures for stretch marks, anything about any sort of physical like maintenance. You didn't do that, because your bodies were for producing children, and that was it. It didn't matter what you looked like. It didn't matter if your body had stretch marks. It didn't matter it just mattered if your body functioned.
And it was considered vain.
Yeah. And I didn't want to be vain. I was very pious too.
Very pious.
I didn't want to be vain. I wanted to just be a vessel to bring God's children to the planet. And that's what I feel like and so her last sentence of this chapter is, I lost myself. That first year, I lost myself. And you do, because you're trying so hard to do all the things right. And you're going to very piously be the one who does it the right way.
Yep.
So,
and I put into my notes here that she was going through her pious stage, but this is actually something taught to the children, to the young people getting married, that you need to become the most righteous and holy, which is going to make it so that you become closer to God. And so if you have any sort of flaunting yourself or doing anything like that, you are worldly, and you need to stay away from that. It's a slippery slope to slide down out into the world. And so there is very little sexiness involved, I guess, if you're trying to be righteous and pious. So
right. And that's what's so frustrating about this. That's why I really wanted to focus on this too, because you can see this first year, how it sets the stage for how Christine shows up as a sister wife throughout the rest of the time. Because now, this is why I feel like they replace these wives so easily with a younger, hotter version, somebody who maybe hasn't had children, somebody who, you know what I mean? When my ex-husband started dating the second wife, I was 18 and she was 16. And so, the garments are a way to block the intimacy from happening, and then become a protection when you are now garbage or useless. Okay, so let's go through and see if we can have some questions. Does anybody? Oh, thank you so much, Jacob and 3 boys. Thank you for that super chat. Let's see. Do we have any questions in here?
So now I'm going to be looking up through the questions.
You can go through the questions. Let's see if we have anything. Does anybody have anything that they wanted? Let's see. Oh, your sister Katie says that ponds were not safer. You had cows pooping in them. What does that swimsuit look like? Honestly, if we went to a public pool, I would change in the restroom or the locker room, go to the public pool, and then go right back in and put your garments right back on and then go. But if we went to the lake, I had a long wetsuit that came down to my wrist, down to my pant, and I actually still have it. It's still in really good shape. It was a really good wetsuit. And so, we would do some of those, but not all the time did we wear. A lot of times you'll see they just don't wear swimming suits. You just wear your jeans or you wear your pants or whatever into swimming in the water. You'll see that a lot in FLDS pictures and stuff. Even though they don't wear the same kind of garments, they still believe in covering their bodies the same. And so
FLDS doesn't wear the same garments?
Not that I'm aware of. I could be wrong. My mom can correct me that if she needed to.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably do. They thought that theirs were probably more correct. They have probably more sashes on them or fancier stitching around their symbols. So
let's see. Somebody says, I'm assuming you guys movies would have been westerns or Sound of Music type films. Yep. Tons of musicals.
We did get to watch Jeremiah Johnson, but most of them were like Babes in Toyland. Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, The King and I, all the good stuff back in the musicals. So
Somebody says, that story about what your ex said to you after having a baby makes me rage inside. I'm so glad that you overcame that abuse, Mel. Yeah, I do appreciate that Christine is setting this up in the book, because it really gives you an idea of why she focused on the children so much, because that's where she felt her need and her purpose was. And so, yeah, that was a hard thing for me to get through, for sure. I mean, for years and years and years, I had a lot of tears about that. Marie Baker says, it's so sad to me that they were all so young. I remember being a young wife. I couldn't imagine trying to have a relationship with my husband and 2 other women who were also young wives. And you have no emotional maturity to even know how to handle this. We were not raised with any sort of psychological understanding of why we were doing what we were doing. It was just go to your leadership and get a blessing.
Yep.
Anna G, thank you. She says, that's effing devastating. I'm so sorry. I'm glad you have the strength to build the life that you deserved and that you earned. And he's living the life that he earned too. Boy, isn't that the truth? Yeah. What are you saying?
They said Robert Redford passed.
Yeah, Robert Redford passed today. Yeah.
Today?
This morning. I thought we talked about that. We've talked about so many things today. I thought we talked about that too.
Dang it. Yeah.
Yeah. Corey's little sister says, our bathing suit was cut off jeans at the knee and a big t-shirt. Surprised I didn't sink to the bottom of the lake. Yeah. That's pretty much what we were able to wear. Somebody says, did the garments get hot in the summer? Oh boy. It was ridiculous. They were so hot and so sweaty, and it was miserable, to be honest, miserable. So.
And I didn't ever wear them, but I went to work projects, and you'd be working alongside all these men that were in their garments and everything, and the sweet smell of BO, it was just amazing.
Everybody, it felt like in the AUB stunk. It didn't matter how much deodorant you used. It didn't matter what you did. You smelled all the time because you were sweaty all the time.
Because, we're in the same underwear again, are we, George?
Yeah. So somebody says, all of a sudden I had a memory of Cody swimming in the pond at Coyote Pass in his Haze underwear. That's a guy who needed a cover-up.
Risque.
So Christine does say in this book that at the beginning they wore their garments all the time. We could see them in we've been, watching the show for the first time. And so we talk about that when we do our recaps. We can see that they're wearing their garments, but at some point they decided to stop wearing their garments while they were filming.
And why I haven't made it to that. They were in their garments in the
season 4. Yeah.
So I'm interested to see when they stopped.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So, okay. So chapter 7, we'll get going on this chapter. It says, she was hurt and I was hurt. She talks about how she has, the kids are where she found true love with all of them. They talk about, let's see, I was really surprised to hear her deep love and deep compassion for the kids, because this is not normal in polygamy. It's not been my experience. Has it not been your experience?
Well, there was
later in life.
Later
in
you.
life,
there was, yeah.
But
at the beginning, it was hard. That one wife would get frustrated with the other wife.
She'd take it out on her kids.
Yep, and sorry, mom, but mom. I got little sisters and stuff like that were scared of my mom. So she was, in some cases, the Mary position in here. So, and there were other wives like that too. So there were, heck, I was scared of my mom growing up. So, I can imagine other brothers and sisters were the same way. There was favorite wives. There were the wives that, put down the rules and you followed them. And so, it was a scary time growing up, and things did mellow later on in life. I have great relationships with mothers now, but it was a tense way to grow up. They were all young. There was a lot of arguments. There was a lot of stuff that went on, great fights, that went down in our house. And so little kids betting marbles on which wife was going to go down. So
Oh my gosh.
so we were yeah.
Well, because a lot of times in this religion, it's like you look at the other children as the other woman's children. And so it's easier to take punishments out on them. It's easier to treat the kids horribly because you are upset with the mom. And so it was never my experience to ever have a mother who adored and loved all the children. Now, in my family, my mom was that mom. She was the one who adored and loved all the other kids. That's what I'm saying. The parallels between Christine's experience and my mom's experience are very similar. So a lot of the kids would come to my mom for things. And so one of the things that I kind of struggled with the first time we read the book, because we read the book once, now we're going through it again for this, is that how she said that when she was pregnant with each one of her children, she took on her children's personalities. I have always looked at that differently, where it was like I look at the traits that my kids have when I was pregnant with them, and I'm like, oh, that makes sense. I was this way. But as we read the book and I started contemplating it a lot more, I can see why she presents it this way, that she did take on. So she talks about how she had Aspen the first year of their marriage, and Aspen was so chill and she was oddly reasonable. And so she talks about those being the same kind of traits that Aspen shows now. And wouldn't you agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
Is in your experience, in your personal experience with Aspen, would you say that she's pretty chill?
Oh yeah.
Pretty reasonable.
Yep, she's awesome.
Yeah.
So funny too. So got a great sense of humor.
Yeah. So. And so Cory worked with Aspen for 6 months or so. Mm-hmm. And she is amazing. She is adorable. And so let's see.
Aspen and Mitch were awesome.
Yeah.
Great people.
So she says it would take her years to realize that she took on her children's personalities while she was pregnant with them. And if you've ever been a mother, I definitely encourage people to sit down and look at the different personalities of your children, and then sit down and maybe correlate what was going on in your life at that time. I've done that with all 5 of my kids, and it is crazy, the differences with what's happened with my kids and their personalities now based on what was happening at my time of life. And then she also talks about that Cody finally was going to go wedding ring shopping because he wanted her to have a wedding ring before she had a baby with him.
Yeah, he's got to put a stamp or a claim on you.
Yeah.
Especially if it's going into the midwives within, or people within the AUB, to have a ring that she's wearing when she goes in there takes away, if you will, the shame of in case somebody was thinking that it was something else. Nope, we've been married. Because even within the AUB, there are a lot of times where you're like, oh, those guys must have got married, because it wasn't a big announcement. It was a very small family, if you will, celebration. But now all of a sudden the family has another wife, and she now is getting pregnant and has a kid. And so you put that ring on to show that she is married. But then he doesn't have to have a ring because he's always on dating. I
know.
mode.
So a lot of the men don't wear wedding rings because they're always on the prowl. They're always in date mode. So they don't wear wedding rings. Not very many of them do, at least, but pretty much all the women do. But yeah, it's funny because when we had our first child together, we legally got married. And he says, can you please go legally change your name before we have our child? So I made sure that I legally did that before we had ours. But she talks about planning on coming to Utah to have Aspen. And then there's always this question out there in cyber world about whether Cody was on birth certificates or not. She very clearly states in the book that Cody was on that they didn't have, that why they were scared to put people on birth certificates was because of bigamy laws or because of that. But Cody was adamant about being on every one of his kids' birth certificates. It was important to him to be notified to be noticed as the dad. So I don't know where some of that confusion has come on, because maybe they talk about it in later seasons and we haven't seen that. But
Well,
in the book, she makes it clear.
So this is kind of what I was taught growing up or stuff like that. Even though I had a birth certificate, and so did my little brother, some of my other brothers and sisters didn't get birth certificates till later on, because a birth certificate was a worldly thing. It was something that the government or the state needed for that. They felt like that their genealogy books was that birth certificate, that child's name and birth date and baptism dates and all that stuff. That was the important information. And the birth certificate was just something that they would need if the world didn't come to an end by this date. Then they'll go out and get some birth certificates of all the kids born up till that date type thing, because the world was going to come to an end. The U.S. government didn't need to know all that information. So
yeah.
But yeah, we were on the brother just underneath me and myself both had birth certificates, because we were pretty good tax write-offs. So.
Yeah. I didn't get birth certificates for my kids until they were much older, because again, we didn't want the government involved. But my ex-husband was on every one of the birth certificates. But I didn't get birth certificates for them. She talks about how independence is extremely hardwired into women. And it is. That's what kills me so much about this, is that I don't think I can do it on my own. And yet you have to do everything on your own. Yeah. Christine didn't know she could raise kids on her own, yet you have to do everything on your own. Yeah. So she talks about having her baby in Utah at her grandmother's house, and how she went back and forth to Utah on her own to do that. Yeah.
Welcome to a marriage. You are now a single mother. So
yeah.
You're going to be managing this all on your own, because he's got to put on a job here. And then if they go out in public, it's going to be with the legal wife. So,
right.
So, and it's a private affair when he gets come around every 3 nights, whatever.
Right. Yeah. So she talks about it. She talks about her how she didn't have a relationship with her mom, but her mom had assisted several different births. And that she talked about that Cody didn't even come to Utah to help her until it was the birth time.
Yeah.
Again, very independent. I just had this conversation with my mom last night that she did everything on her own, 100% on her own, because that man is working typically 1 to 2 jobs to try to support these huge families. But she talks about how she's trying, her mom had made her wedding dress, but she wasn't allowed to come to the ceremony because she wasn't a church member. Yeah. And so she's still struggling with her mom at this point, because her mom had now left the Polygamous church. And this is Mormonism across the board. This is not just polygamy. This is the Mormon culture. You cannot attend your child's wedding in the temple if you are not an active member of that church with a recommend, with a temple recommend, with a current temple recommend. So you have to be in good standing with the Mormon church, with the Polygamous church, in order to attend a wedding.
Yeah, you can go to the reception afterwards, where that reception part, but the actual marriage part, you have to be in good standing. And it's the same in the AUB. It's the same in the LDS church. You cannot go into their temple ceremony without their approval. So
yeah.
And so they're creating that us versus them right out the bat. You can't bring your mom in here. She's not worthy to come into our holy temple. So, and that's just the way it is. So
yeah.
Sorry guys, that's just the way it is. But
yeah. So she talks about what a wonderful birth partner Cody was, how she was so grateful to have him in the room. I do appreciate, because I feel like we try to do that on our channel too. We do try to give credit where credit is due. And so I do appreciate that she gives Cody the credit for showing up for her during these moments of birth. But now I knew Christine's mom. She was wonderful and sweet. And when she says in here how that, her grandmother ended up calling her mom, and her mom was walking her through what to do for Christine in labor. And she quietly assisted, her mom, Annie, quietly assisted, even though she couldn't be close to Christine yet, knowing that Christine didn't want her there for the birth of her grandchild. Then her mom ended up coming over the next day. And I highlighted all this. When I saw her, I realized how much I needed her. That day, my heart could have broken from need, as I am sure hers did the day before. And I was thinking about that too. And I'm like, how here she's got so much judgment towards her mom. You know, my mom was at all of my births except for one. And we weren't speaking at the time. And I didn't have her there at the birth. And that was a very sick baby. He ended up in the ICU and all that afterwards. And my mom ran right up there and was right there. And I remember when she walked through the door, I remember the overwhelming amount of guilt that I felt because I didn't have her at the birth. And then the overwhelming amount of sadness that I felt because, so when we watched this today or read this part, I definitely teared up a lot because as mothers, we show up whether we're accepted or not. And sometimes we just have to let our children go through whatever they go through. And I hope that Christine has healed some of that with her mom so that she is with her daughters different. And then I love how she ends the chapter. You don't sleep until someone you trust holds your baby. So, and I felt that way in the ICU. My mom showed up and I was like, I burst into tears. I don't know what to do. Mom, help me. Because they didn't think he would survive. And she did. She came in, she held him. Cory and I finally got some sleep. It was wonderful. And so that's how she ends chapter 7. So let's see. Do you see any questions? Thank you so much, Susie.
Susie Snyder asks, if he was on all the birth certificates, why did he have to establish paternity
with Truly? I believe that's a Utah law that you always have to do an establishment of paternity in Utah. I believe I had to do that with all 3 of my kids when I got legally divorced too.
Oh, because they were getting legally divorced to prove that. Okay.
Yeah. So I think that's a Utah law. I think they do that because I think it's a Utah law because of polygamy, to be honest. But
okay, to make sure that it is his kid and they're not covering for some other family.
Right. Okay. So I think it's a 100% Utah law. Let's see.
If he's going to be paying by the state, have the state paying, having him pay child support or something like that, then they want to.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So she says in her book, so I'm seeing a lot of comments that he wasn't on Truly's birth certificate. He would have been, because she was born in a hospital and he was there. But I think that Christine very clearly states in the book that he's on every single one of his children's birth certificates. It says Cody would sign his name on each and every one of our kids' birth certificates. So I can only go by what she says in the book. I believe that they made a big deal about these types of things, honestly, for maybe drama for the show. I don't know.
No, and I can see the paternity test thing for when there's a separation or divorce. So just because,
so
crap that goes on. I want to make sure that that's really his baby, not the prophet's.
Yeah, and what the heck? And honestly, in Utah too, because he's already married to someone else who has a child similar to the age of Truly, that might be why they had to establish paternity too. I honestly don't know why.
I don't know why they.
Yeah.
And I'm being facetious again. Sorry.
Yeah. Only in Theory says you couldn't keep me from my kid's wedding. I'd be peeing. It's been what? Oh, peeping. Peeping. It's hard. It's hard for a lot of people not to be there. I know it was. And so in the polygamous culture, because we don't have, you can't be at all the weddings, receptions are a bigger thing, because your family cannot be, most of your family. My sister was furious when she couldn't be at my wedding. She is 4 months older than me, and she was angry, very, very angry that she couldn't be at my wedding. But I did have a reception and had her in my reception line. And I tried to explain to her why she couldn't be there, but she didn't care. And she was angry because we were so young. We were both 17. She's 4 months older than me. And but her mom left when we were really little. And so she wasn't raised in the polygamous group. And so she didn't always understand a lot of the things that had happened. But yeah, she was pretty angry. Let's see. Do you see any questions you want to make sure we get to? Only in Theory says, I loved the evolution of Christine's relationship with her mom, and that she says the biggest life lesson she found to be true came from her mom. I love that for her too, because honestly, her mom is wonderful. And my experience of her mom has always been wonderful. Let's see. I'm choking up listening to this, Mel. Yeah, that was a rough, my sister's on here too. That was a rough time for me not to have my mom at that birth. Let's see. Okay, so we'll move on to chapter 8 now. She talks about in chapter 8 her most magical moments. Do you have a chapter 8 on yours?
Yep.
We do.
Most magical moments.
Yeah. So she talks about that this is where they lived in Wyoming, and it's awesome. Or no, this is where she talks about when they got married, they moved around a lot. It seemed like every few years Cody needed to look for something new. That
tradition.
Yeah, that tradition. Well his dad had that farm up there. They didn't move around a lot.
Neither.
So it's sad. I feel like it's sad because it's already so hard to be in this religion in the first place. Then you add finances to it. That's a whole different level. Then you add moving a family. That's a whole nother level. Yeah. So she talks about moving to Utah. They had 4 adults and 7 kids to care and feed for. I mean, I can't imagine. When we moved, we had the 2 of us and 3 children. Mm-hmm. I can't even imagine that. And then she brings up,
and tons of brothers and sisters that helped us move. So
I know you do have an army behind you.
You do have an army to help you move. So
yeah,
set everything up. So that was the nice part about it. But yeah, moving yearly, that would be.
I think that's one of the downfalls of this family is how much they had to move and how much they, just didn't stay in one place. Then she talks about when she was pregnant with McKelty, and she felt decisive and beautiful, the most beautiful she'd ever felt in her life. That was interesting to me because how she describes McKelty in here. Then she talks about the midwife who can come to help her. It was usually a man with his wife who would come to help deliver the baby. And this man delivered tons of babies, delivered a ton of my sister's babies. I never had them deliver any of my babies, but they delivered a lot of my mother's babies. But the wife that normally came didn't come with him, that his other wife came. And she says that she did know her through the church. And it's funny, if you listen to Christine's voice as she's doing the audiobook, you kind of hear a little bit of the twinge in her voice, because a couple chapters earlier, when she talks about the 3 ladies in church that were talking about the doomsday until the end of the world, the end of the world, and the world was going to end when Christine was 15. This woman was one of those ladies. And so it cracks me up because she talks about Christine says to her, do you even know what you're doing? And she's like, I've delivered more babies than my sister wife has delivered. Yes, I know what I'm doing. But she brought her scriptures. She brought her Bible and her scriptures. And during the contractions, she would read verses. I think I would smack someone across the room if they tried to do that. I don't think I could handle that at all.
Well, and so, yeah, she was probably there was probably a little frustration there. She's showing up and, do you know what you're doing? Your last prophecy just failed. I made it past through 15. So I'm now having kids. So what happened to your prophecy? So
and I knew this woman, and she was wonderful. She was very sweet. I really did. She was my Relief Society visiting home teacher. So she would come to my home frequently to teach us the Relief Society stuff, but she was a very sweet woman. But yeah, I
Her
thought
prophecies were off.
I thought that was funny as I put that connection together. But I think that would be awkward and pretty presumptuous to bring your scriptures thinking you're going to read in between contractions. I think that I personally would lose my mind if something like that were to happen. But yeah, so I think it's funny that she brought it up in this book. She talks about that this was the fastest labor, which is how McKelty is to a T, that if she does something, she's just going to go get it done. And that's all there is to it. So I really like the way that she describes each child. And then she just talks about how Mary and Janelle were asleep in their own room and they didn't even realize that their baby had been born. That doesn't compute in my mind. Like, you had to have heard something going on in the house. You've got people coming in and out. But I mean,
you got kids of your own you're trying to keep asleep. So
right. And so when I read that part of it, I really thought to myself, on Sister Wives, the show, they have, Christine has Truly and the whole family comes to the hospital. Robin has Solomon and the whole family goes over there no matter what time of day it is. And I feel like in this part of the book, she shows that they really just did that for TV, because that just really doesn't happen. I mean, they didn't even bother to wake up the other two wives that lived in the same home. So they didn't even realize that she had a baby. So I don't know. I feel like that just right there shows that they really didn't do it. And she talks about they needed more space because now they're having more kids, and that they were preppers. And this is a huge Mormon church thing, prepping. It's for the end of days. It's just the thing Mormons do. Your family's
for getting through the year too. We lived up in the mountains. So
right.
You put up food storage to get through the winter months and stuff, because you could go down to the grocery store, but we didn't have money for groceries a lot. So we put up food.
Yeah. So prepping is very common.
And everything. So, and my grandmother and aunts who are part of the LDS church do the same thing. I mean, they have huge storerooms of food. So
yeah,
it's in our family. It runs in our centuries of families doing this stuff.
Down into our bloodline, I swear. It's just, it's definitely teaching us to become self-reliant, and that we can be there to support other people if other people, and we still, both of us being the oldest, still incorporate this mentality into our own home. We still have, Cory will be like, why are you buying that? There's just the two of us, and we have an 18-year-old at home still too. And I'm like, yeah, but our other kids might need to come home, or our families might need to come over. And so we don't just buy something for us, we buy something for us and to share with everyone else.
And we cook now for 3 of us, maybe 4 at the house, and she still makes 2 pans of stuff.
It's ingrained in me from being a small child.
We don't need this. We're not even going to eat half of the pan. And she's like, well, but then our daughter comes home and she backs it up and sends it off. So there's always food being sent out of the house. It's cool.
And that night, just a couple nights ago, I way overmade food, and but it was a casserole type thing, and that's what I didn't know how to make it for only 3 of us, because I've always cooked for 30 people. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to freeze this because this is gonna take forever for us to eat. And then fortunately our daughter and her boyfriend came home, and so then I sent a bunch. We've been eating it for a week. We need more food.
Yeah.
In this chapter, she goes on to talk about they're 4 years into their marriage. 4 years. And Cody did something that made her believe that she really could stay with him for eternity.
He realized
my mind
that
is
she
blown.
loved him, or that he loved her.
No, that's actually not quite there. This is when he takes her on the trip to Nauvoo.
Yeah, but it says 4 years into the marriage, Cody realizes he's in love with Christine. That's amazing.
If you look at my handwriting in this book, I wrote WTF. I was like, what on earth? It's like 4 years into the marriage, you finally realize that, and he finally says he loves you. What on earth? And so, but he sold DVDs which to me doesn't make much sense how he could make a living doing that. Now, the products that he sold, we owned them all. My children grew up on them. I didn't allow my children to watch regular television. They watched these DVDs.
I think we still have them downstairs.
We have them all downstairs. They are now
Well,
boxed up. We don't use them anymore.
They
But
could go away, but
yeah. So she gets
end of times are coming, so
Yeah.
might as well keep them, right?
Yeah. So she gets to go to Nauvoo with him for 2 weeks. And what she says in here breaks my heart, because her exact words is, he chose me to go with him. I feel like in this religion, I know how this feels because I felt this way my whole life with my father. I felt this way with my ex-husband. It's a constant, is he going to pick me? Is he going to pick me? Have I been sweet enough that he wants to be around me? Have I been kind enough that he wants to be around me? Have I done my responsibilities and my duties enough for him to choose me?
Have the back rubs been good enough that he needs to bring along his masseuse or
Yeah.
because he's going to be working long hours and needs a massage every night. So, yeah.
Yeah. And my heart like broke when I read that sentence, because that's what we live for every day is if he chooses me, it's validation that I'm enough. If he chooses me, it's validation that I'm important. And so that is it. This is where I get a little bit enraged, because this happens so often in this society. The women are just constantly sitting around waiting to be chosen, waiting to be loved, waiting to be important enough.
And I also feel like that there might be, just the way we grew up, that there might be competition on, are you the favorite wife? Are you that wife that's getting that extra special attention for a while? You know what I mean? And so favorite wives change and go through the cycle until one or two of them are like, you know what, we're not playing this game anymore. And then all of a sudden you're out of harmony with your husband. So I feel like a lot of times but I mean, she doesn't say that in the book, but there's a pitting of the wives against each other, which is probably what causes volcanic eruptions within families. So
I remember the day that I finally flipped my ex-husband off and went, choose this, buddy. And I genuinely meant it. I genuinely didn't care if he ever chose me again. That's a level of freedom that until you experience that, you can't explain that to anybody, because you're in this chain of always needing to be chosen or always needing to be enough for them. And the day that I just went, I'm sick and tired of this. You don't choose me. I don't choose you either. Let's just go our separate ways. So yeah, that was one of the best moments of my life. And I, when Christine later on in later chapters explains that too, you can see that I could feel that, because that's exactly how I felt. But she talks about too, that on this trip, he introduces her to a coworker as his wife. I can't and how.
That's amazing.
Wait a second. Can he introduce me as his wife? So yeah,
judging, can he even introduce me as a wife? Are we going to get in trouble for that? So
yeah, and that she remembers thinking how cool it was that he introduced her as his wife. Like, what? And so
and he probably did introduce her as his wife so that the coworker didn't think he was had somebody on the side type thing. So that
she wasn't a mistress that he had out there for 2 weeks.
2 weeks or whatever. So it's more of his, no, this is my wife, don't worry about it. But
right. And so basically, so she gets picked for this trip because why? She kept sweet so well, and then she gets introduced as a wife. Like, what an honor, what a privilege that she gets, and so she says that later on, Cody, when they're driving home from that trip, Cody looks at her and says he realized that he was in love with her. Really? It just took you 4 years, buddy? 4 years of this woman slaving over you, and you finally realize you love her. Yeah. 4 years into their marriage. And she believed that love was slow and that you would fall in love over your shared stories and your shared experiences.
Because that's the way we were taught.
It is the way we were taught.
The way we were taught.
Instantly falling in love was
that-
not an option.
Well, it's not feasible. That's based in lust in their teachings, and that's not feasible. It is the building of the relationship, building of the family, raising righteous children that actually creates the love. That other stuff is lust. What Cody and Robin had was lust. So
yeah. And she says to him that she remembers telling her brothers, there's no such thing as instant love or love at first sight. No one falls in love like that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so tragic. Yeah. We talk about the first time that I saw Cory. I instantly was like, I was married, I wasn't looking, but I was instantly like, oh my gosh, who is this? But I mean, we cultivated a friendship for a few years before I was divorced. And then I was like, okay, buddy, let's go. And then I'm asking him out, let's go on a date. But she believed that, and this is what we're sold. This is the story that we're sold when we're young. These are the stories that they tell us in our young women's classes.
Christian classes too. So
that she believed that their relationship was something rich and emotional because they had been friends at first and had to work to develop a love. And that this is what she told her children. Build a strong friendship and love will come over time.
No, rich and emotional relationship is a righteous relationship. It's a relationship not only with you and your husband, but with God.
Mm-hmm.
And that's their teachings. That's what they put through. So you don't want a lustful relationship. You want that rich, emotional, righteous relationship with God within your thing. And so there can't be lust or love or falling in love type thing. It's worked upon.
Mm-hmm.
So
well, and then she goes over in here that she's telling her kids, be friends, and then you'll have this rich, deep love. And Cody's over there. This is a contract. Now, Cory's a contracts guy too, so he understands this, but at the same time, that should not apply necessarily yes, we are very much contract people, but come on.
Contracts, yeah.
Rather than having a loving and romantic and loving partnership, she says. And she understood, we all understood, this is something that we were taught very, very small, very young. That fairy tales were for monogamous relationships, but they didn't have that special relationship with God that you did. And so your relationships were more sacred and holy because your relationship was sealed with the love of God over an altar in a temple. And so you had something that they didn't have.
That's right.
So you can watch all the Disney movies or all the fairy tale movies, but those don't matter. That superficial love.
And they don't last.
And they don't
what
last.
Their teaching is. And as far as the contract is concerned, he is literally stating what their marriage is. It is a contract where they sat across an altar and made a covenant or a contract in front of God that neither of them could break.
Yep.
So they're coveting that they will be with each other for eternity. And so there's no, you break this, you go to hell. And so they have, it is to him, it is a contract. It is a covenant that he's made. It's not love, and it never has been love. It's just that contract that he has signed to get into heaven, eternity, and get his planet. So
yep.
Yeah.
And I wrote down in here that because that we were always sold this story that you don't need the fairy tale, you just need that relationship with God and your husband. That is, in my opinion, I wrote here in the book, that is that's how they validate the lack of love in these relationships.
Yep.
In the FLDS, it doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter if you're assigned a partner. And so in the AUB, they always, everyone's prided themselves in the fact that marriages were not assigned. That's not always true either. But in my experience, in my opinion,
encouraged.
Yeah, this is how they validate that people aren't in love. and it's okay. Don't worry about it. You're gonna feel that love, and that's just a material. That's a human flesh. That's of the flesh. That's not of the spirit.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's how they get away with selling people a story that's complete bullshit, in my opinion. And then she talks about how they love to dance together. Again, we've talked about this a dozen times on this channel, that's one of the AUB biggest things. She talks about how they got into a rhythm where sex was kind of good. Oh my God, can you imagine?
Mm-hmm.
Sex was kind of good.
Yeah.
And then she talks about, you can imagine.
Well, especially since yes, it was pleasurable. It was this, but that was almost
secondary.
Yeah, secondary. It's carnal, a carnal. So it was kind of good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything's working good.
Well,
we were making babies, so everything's functioning as it should. So
who cares if you like it? And then she talks about 2 years into their marriage, she had her first orgasm, and it was entirely accidental, but still. Oh my gosh, this poor woman. Although I understand this. I mean, I was married for 10 years. That didn't happen once in the entire 10 years. So I understand that.
That might be where Cody was talking about his lightning bolt, and he just
can you never do that again on TV?
Vibrated enough. So.
Yeah. Well, another thing. Another thing that I've seen in comments was somebody made a comment that said she doesn't say in here that was with Cody. So we talked about that too.
It would be because she's in her pious stage, and she's doing everything as she should be, and being righteous and everything. And one of the sins of the AUB is self-pleasure. That is a no-no within the AUB. You should not be doing that at all. So if she's being pious and following all of the rules,
that would not happen self-wise.
Yeah.
So we're going to pause right here and then go ask some questions, because there was a question that came up here that I want to make sure that I get to. So
did we finish this part?
No, we're still in this chapter.
Okay, good.
But it says, question for Cory. Did you choose not to be a polygamist because you saw the pain women went through and wanted to love one person unconditionally?
Absolutely. Yeah, I didn't feel like I was watching professionals, in my eyes, professionals, and it was hard for them to all be in love at the same time, and that was miserable. And then I saw some of my mother's hearts breaking, and I'm like, why would I ever put somebody that I love through that? And I don't believe that that you have to do this. Where does it? And then they'd do the scriptures, but they were making me read the Bible at the same time, and I saw the opposite being told in the Bible. And so I was like, well, I think we have a choice. And we fought a war in heaven over choice. And so if that is a to-do list on the to-do list, I'll do that later, in the afterlife, on somebody else's planet, till I get my own planet, if that's the fairy tale how it goes. So, but no, I saw how miserable of a lifestyle it was, and I was like, you know what? I'm looking for somebody that I'm going to fall in love with, and and I had great teachers. I had grandmothers, aunts, uncles that were like, no, it's a miserable state to be in. It was stopped for a reason, and you can be just fine being married to one wife and loving them. And so I saw great examples from one side of my family, and just said, I'm not going to be a polygamist. I'd rather be a
And he does an
monogamist.
amazing job at loving one person very well. He does a really good job at it. So
and I'd be miserable as a polygamist. I really would. I wouldn't do well, because I would definitely have a favorite. Yeah. And it'd be my second wife.
For those of you who don't know, we've been divorced and then got remarried. So I'm the second wife and the first one.
Her first wife's pretty cool too. So
The first wife was amazing, but the second wife's way better.
mhm.
So Only in Theory says, so are you saying it is normal in the AUB for it to take years for a state of love?
Or never, or
Mhm.
it never happens. It never gets to that state of love. A wife will get frustrated that there's never a bond between her and her husband. She'll ask for a release. Usually 2 or 3 kids are involved and gets recycled into another family that she feels more of a connection with.
Mhm.
That is the cycle that goes on within. The Browns were unique in that they were all together, working together, and from the outside looked like they had stuff going that most other families didn't have going.
Mhm.
So they were the best of what the AUB had to offer to put out there so you guys could see.
Mhm.
They were.
They really were. And that's, I mean, and you guys, and I think that they genuinely do love each other in the best way that we were taught how to love each other. And so I definitely don't want to criticize them, because I do feel like they did the best that they could with what we were taught. We weren't taught emotional intelligence in any way, shape, or form.
The women loved Cody, you know what I mean? And Cody was, yeah. And then Cody fell in love, and they're like, wait a minute. We just didn't think he was capable of this. He is capable of it. We'd like some of that. And he's like, yeah, I can't do that. I can't, I'm not that good of an actor. I can do that for Robin because it comes easy and such.
Yeah.
And so I can't do that. So you guys are just going to have to, we've been doing this for 16 years. So you guys can have what I've been giving you for 16 years and sit back and enjoy it and go out to pasture, or you can leave.
Yeah.
And I can be with the one I love. So it's a
But if you
hard
leave, I'm going to be so
lifestyle.
offended, and I don't understand how you dare. You made a contract.
You broke that contract.
You made a contract, damn
but
it.
I don't want to be with you right now either. So it is. It's he's making the women decide to leave.
Yeah.
Because he's not going to break his contract, and yet he does.
Well, and he doesn't want them to leave because he does still want the money.
Exactly.
So
he wants it the way that they agreed to do it, and to keep putting in and building up his kingdom,
agreement.
building up his kingdom of God. So
yeah. So with all that being said, now we can carry on, because Christine goes, as crazy as it sounds, and considering how difficult our lives were at this point, we are open to the idea of Cody bringing in a 4th wife. Boom, my head explodes at this point, because it's almost like, life's so hard right now. Let's just go ahead and add more to it. And she can get a job. She can work. Kingdom. She can help. This is where this mentality comes from. I see so many people joke online about Robin, and she's like, don't let these wives leave. They need to have jobs to help support us. This is where this comes from. And Christine even says it right here in the book. She can get a job, and we'd all figure out a way to make it work. What were you going to say?
Yeah, and this 4th wife coming in probably would have got a job and did that. I mean, the one he did pick just put bills on the table and
so
didn't necessarily get a job at all.
How am I supposed to pay for these?
Yeah. So but that was an expectation of the next wives coming in. They would get a job. They would add to the family pot while they were getting to know each other or getting pregnant and starting to have kids. So.
Yeah. Well, then she goes on about how a young woman wanted to come into their family who was maybe 19. So I'm trying to estimate maybe how old Cody was at this time. He was probably close to 30, I would think. And she talks about how she'd gone through it properly. She'd asked the head of the church, which was her grandpa. We talked about this on the last live. Her mother's mother married Owen Allred, who was the prophet at the time. So Reuben Allred was the first prophet, and he was the prophet through Christine's dad. Then Owen Allred was the next prophet, and he was the prophet, or he was her grandfather through Christine's mom. So she's got the prophet there. Yeah, she's all over the place there. But she talks about how this 19-year-old girl had gone through all the proper channels. She was respectful to Mary and Janelle and Christine before they started dating. She says, I can picture my grandpa nodding as he listened. Because Cody had to go ask him. So she can picture her grandpa nodding as he listened to Cody ask him, and then take a slow breath, which is funny because I knew this man very personally, and I can see his mannerisms, everything as she's describing this, and having him say, you know, Cody, I don't think you're taking care of the wives that you have. And he was very blunt like that. He was very open and very honest about things. And he would say, no, this union won't happen. And he would stop unions. There were people who demanded that they happen anyways, and he would still stop them. He was the same man who wanted my ex-husband and I to date our second wife that we were going to take on. And when he got his mindset to something, he was set on it. And then she talks about how her mother told her grandpa that they didn't have any money, and Christine went to her mom. There's already division between Christine and her mom. And then she goes to her mom and says, how could you do this? How could you go and tell him that Cody's not taking care of us? She just did 7 chapters talking about how they're broke as can be. They're like, that's how her mom could do it, is because her mom's over here watching these women scrape by and probably on government assistance at this point, and they want to add another one. And it caused problems between her mom and the Cody Brown family. And I can definitely see why.
She was telling the truth.
And that is not something that you do.
Between the Cody Brown family and her mother.
Yep.
So
yep.
That's the sad part about it. So
yeah, you put on your best Sunday face, you put on your best Sunday clothes, and you go get a 4th wife when you can't even financially support the 3 that you have. And to me, that's despicable. And here's the thing too about it that's so frustrating to me is that he's already gone. She talks about it in previous chapters. He's gone all week and he comes home for the weekend. What if you have 4 wives? You got a 2-night weekend. You spend 2 nights with one wife, or 1 night with one wife, night with the other, and then you don't see the other 2 wives for 2 weeks? How do you make that math? You don't. But they don't care. They just keep doing it. They just keep getting more wives and having more kids. Go ahead.
And this is just me speculating and everything, but Cody's being told that he can't take care of a 4th wife and that he needs to get stuff going. And so you'll see a lot of men within the AUB, if they've been struggling, then they want to go out and get a something to show that they are doing very well and they could take on more wives.
So he goes and gets a convertible.
So that's why he goes and gets a convertible. That convertible is a status statement within the AUB that I'm doing so well I can buy a convertible. It's a dating tool, but it's also a way to say to the leadership, no, I'm doing very well, and I'm doing so well, I've got a sports car or a car like this, so I can take care of more wives, send more wives my way. So, and it lets the other ladies know, oh, he's driving a sports car? Yeah. He's probably I'll be taken care of. So
yeah.
let's start dating the guys within the AUB with the sports cars. So
yeah. So let's see.
On the next page.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I haven't even looked at that. Let's see. Only in Theory says, I hear when you say the Browns were the best example of the AUB lifestyle because it worked for me. I believe the surface that they gave us is only you guys that have made me see how destructive this is. Yeah. And that's, I mean, and we see the aftermath of what's happened to this family.
They have shown how destructive it is. They have shown it play out throughout the series that, yes, this is usually how, unless you struggle on to the end, but there is dysfunction within each and every one of these families. The women kind of got tired of it. And most women don't have a show, don't have something to fall back on. And so they just go out to pasture and be a part of the faith still and live their lives alone. They live their lives alone, raising the kids. They're living their lives alone as elderly ladies, taking care of other family and friends within the community, and their husbands are off dating younger women who can make more kids for them. So
right.
That's the reality of a lot of the way the system goes.
Yep.
So,
they don't sit on porches together in their senior years. My dad has 4 active wives. They don't even talk to each other. They don't have anything to do with each other. My mom is still alive, so that would make 5 wives. My mom, of course, has left my dad. None of these wives even speak to each other. They have nothing to do with each other, and they're all elderly. So they're lonely. They have no connection. They don't sit in rocking chairs on porches together. Very seldom. Some do, but it's very, very, very seldom. So now she goes into talking about Peyton. She's now pregnant with Peyton. She talks about how easygoing she was. Now, I love Peyton. I know a lot of people, there's controversy about Peyton online because he's got the all red sense of humor, but I think he's funny. Maybe just because we grew up with the all red sense of humor. She says she felt so easygoing. She could talk to anyone. She was more talkative than she'd ever been in her life. And that people would come to her where she was working, and she would just chat forever. That he vacillates and has a rough time making decisions. And she's like, that's my Peyton for you. And that immediately after he was born, Janelle came in and held him, and his eyes got wide open and he looked right at her. And she says it's a cool thing to witness, especially since her sons became his brothers. Those are some of the magical moments. Everything about polygamy is not on the most terrible scale. These are some of those small little magical moments. They don't happen as often as, I don't think they happen enough to justify the lifestyle, but those are some of those magical moments where she watches her sister wife come in and hold her son, and her son connect and adore her sister wife. And I think that little passage right there was really sweet, because there has been those moments between sister wives where you genuinely have the betterment of this other woman at heart. Unfortunately, I just don't see too many women that Janelle and Christine are a different species in polygamy. There's just not very many women like them. Most of the women can be very petty, can be very controlling, can be very domineering. And so I think that I appreciate that Christine shares these tender little moments with us. And then here's the passage that has everyone online freaking out. That they lived in a 3-bedroom ranch style house, which meant the kids were toddlers, and they lived in the bedrooms with their mothers, and Cody rotated from room to room. A lot of babies live in rooms with their mothers. Yes, there was probably intimacy that happened in these rooms. Unfortunately, people are like, that's child abuse. What's your thoughts? You're like, oh God, don't make me answer this.
Yeah. So,
I think that this happens in every culture along every planet. Every culture on this planet has people who have to sleep in the same room. Not everyone can afford homes that have children in different rooms than the parents.
I just don't want to think about it.
All right, well, that's true.
I don't want to think about it, because I was one of those kids living in a room with my mom, and I've got little brothers. So, la da 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 da. So yeah, I don't even want to think about it.
So I just think that this particular part of the book is blown way far out of proportion. There are people who can only afford studio apartments, and they have children. And I just think that this is so far blown out of proportion. Yes, you want to be careful. Yes, could it be considered child abuse? Absolutely. If there is, I'm sad to see that this was the focus on some of other commentators' sites, because I just think this happens all the time in regular society. This is not just a polygamous thing. I know a lot of people who cannot afford homes, so their children sleep in the same room as them, and it just is what it is. Let's see. Now that I said something that controversial, let's see if we've got any.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, somebody says that happens with everyone. Someone else says people are being extreme. Many people share rooms with their little children. It's very true.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hopefully these people had enough of a moral compass because they were living their religion, because they tried to be very spiritual people. They're not just out there getting freaky in front of their small toddlers.
Yeah, that's what that's where I'm coming from. Yeah, it was a very pious way to get together. So yeah, kids probably didn't even know what was going on. So
yeah,
there was probably no noise. So.
I can almost guarantee you 90%, well, 99% of all polygamous people don't get freaky in the bedroom. They just don't. Mm-hmm. It's a very one way to have sex. That's how you have it. I mean, there's a reason they call it a missionary, for a reason, because it's very simple. It's not this freak show that other commentators want to make it out to be. So I just really wanted to kind of like squash that, because it's frustrating for me when I listen to people and they're like, oh my God, Cody and these wives are child abusers. No, they weren't. It's very common for people to have to share rooms. Not everybody can afford a house that has a stupid amount of bedrooms for their children. That's not practical. So anyways, let's see.
Especially in this culture. So they're living in trailers, 2 or 3 wives. So
yeah.
And they're still making kids. So
yeah, they're trying to be. Thank you. Only in Theory says, I think all of the Browns at the time they were living in the trailer were trying to be good parents. They were. This is definitely, and let's see, they were probably wearing their garments, by James said. Yeah, they probably were. It's not a freak show like some people want. And I think that they do that for clicks and likes. I think they make it as scandalous as possible so that people will come onto their channel and listen to the gossip. But I just don't believe it. So I think the Browns, every other aspect of their lives show that they were trying to raise healthy, responsible children.
And I've just read through 3 chapters that basically said it wasn't romantic. It wasn't.
Thank you.
It wasn't it wasn't this ravishing. Hell, for 4 years he didn't even know if he was in love with her. So
yeah, he's not getting freaky with her, I promise. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, and come on, let's be honest. If you are a parent, how many times were you caught in the act by your children because they needed a drink of water at 2:30 in the morning, and that's the only time you can find quiet time? I think that every single couple that has children has had something like that happen to them, where you're just like, oh, stop, and you do your best. You do your best to be good parents. And the Browns have shown over and over and over. We're only on season 4, but the Browns have shown over and over and over that their children are the most important thing to them.
Especially, yeah.
So anyways, we'll put that one to rest. So, all right. And then they're talking about in the tiny space that, so this is where she goes into a little bit about Mary and how she's frustrated with Mary. I have known women like Mary in the polygamist world, and they are hard to get along with. They are. But she talks about the tiny space where Mary's rules grew even stricter. I don't care how towels are folded. I think it's funny that she used that, because we literally were taught this in Young Women's. We were taught, don't worry about the way they fold towels. Don't worry about the way that they do dishes. Don't worry about the way they load a dishwasher. Those are the smaller things in life. And but towels and yeah, I was the dishwasher.
Yeah, I was the dishwasher.
We didn't have dishwashers. Yeah. We were the dishwashers. Only rich people had dishwashers. But she talks about, and this is where this can be so tricky, living this lifestyle. I mean, I can't even imagine how your parents did it with 9 women in the house.
I know. That's what in this chapter, she did say, hey, sometimes the kids always felt like that they were being yelled at. I'm like, oh, okay, their family was just like ours. And you can see that. You can see in one of the episodes where Mary is disciplining the kids, and everybody's sitting around. That's just a glimpse of probably what was going on.
Yeah.
And that's how we grew up. It was how we grew up. There were rules for my mom's house, or the part of it. There were rules for this mother's area and that part of the house. There was rules when dad was in there, and you had to figure out what those rules were, which ones overlapped. It was confusing, and you felt like that you were always getting in trouble or yelled at by somebody within. You couldn't please 10 adults. So,
Right.
And so you were going to get in trouble no matter what you were doing. And for sometimes you get in trouble and you didn't even know why you got in trouble. Well,
What did I
hey,
do?
what did I do? So,
Yeah.
oh, it was some other kid that did that. But it's one of those things where it's hard growing up in a society, in a space where there are so many different rules. That's nothing new to the AUB. There's multiple different rules
Right.
that are run by multiple different families and or prophets and or council members, depending on who you're around. And so it's a societal thing where
The rules change all the time too.
we
We've
don't
said
know
that a
what the
million
rules
times.
are. We don't know what those rules are.
Right.
And when you do know it, you walking around very, very
Cautiously. Well, and then she talks about how, but towels were definitely something that was brought up in our young women's classes that we were taught. Don't worry about these things. But apparently Mary missed that memo. She got worried and upset about it. But she talks about, she doesn't care if the kids play with Tupperware in the cupboard and make a mess. She doesn't care if they take 1 bite or 3 bites off their plate. This is the part that really just irked me. She said, when we all lived together, Janelle and I, as well as our kids, follow stricter rules to keep the peace with Mary. That frustrated me so bad when I read that part, because my mom did the same thing. My mom's watching. I love you, Mom, but my mom became spineless because she didn't want to rock the boat. She was trying to be the keep sweet wife. She was trying to do these things. And so when I read this, I was just like, we were the kids who had to live with stupid rules because someone else said we had to. Not because my mom agreed with them, not because my dad even gave a crap, because he didn't, but because another wife said, this is how it should be done. And my mom didn't stand up to her. And so when Christine says that we lived with stricter rules because it was easier to keep the peace. But the kids are ultimately the ones who suffer from this. This is why, in my opinion, you're going to see a lot of the kids online with anger issues towards Mary. This is why. And really, they are probably frustrated with their own mothers because their mothers didn't stop it and they let them do it. And so, but then she talks about how she walks in on them jumping from their bunk beds to her bed. And she didn't want to ruin their fun, but she knew that if they saw her, that she would have to put an end to it. So she walked away. That memory still makes me smile. How often do we do that in our lives where we see something, but the joy and the pleasure that it's bringing outweighs making sure that you follow the rules. And I feel like this is very common in, not like that, love, but it's sad because in polygamy, if you don't do it, wait a minute, Christine, you saw them breaking the rules. And this can create very much of a hierarchy in the children, because Mary's children are following the rules because that's how Mary wants them to be. So this can create a very much of a hierarchy, very much of a status part in the children, because, well, your mom doesn't enforce the rules. Your mom's not doing what's right. Your mom's not, you guys are less than us because we follow the rules, because our mom's the one who set the rules. That's where people kind of came at me a little bit. And we're going to get to this a little bit in one of these other chapters about Mary's child. And so, so this is what happens, unfortunately, is there was a different word I was going to use it for it, not hierarchy, but there becomes
piety.
Well, very much piety.
She uses the word piety in here. So.
Yeah, but it's also status, where they have a higher level of status with not only the mothers, but with the father too, because look, we're
because
following all the
following the
rules.
rules.
We're doing this. And so now they're a higher status than the other children. And even though they're children themselves, and I understand that part, that they are children themselves, but they're better than all the other kids because they're following the rules that their mom set. And that's where you get that
There'll be a
superiority.
Obedient.
Yeah. And so that's, you see that right here. So people are always like, Leon, defending Leon for being a child. I'm not coming at Leon at all. It's the fact that because Mary set the rules and Leon followed them, Leon became superior to all of the other kids because of that. That's not Leon's fault. That's Mary's fault. And that's the other wives' fault for not stopping that. But nonetheless, that's what happens. And that's what happened in our family. And that's what happened in your family. Happens in every single family. So then she just goes down and she's talking about her new employment. They moved back to Wyoming. She's talking about her employment and she talks about how she lies to her employer saying, and she has to go back in and create this whatever trust with her employer.
Learning to tell the truth.
Learning to tell the truth about how many kids that they have.
And not being afraid. I think this is probably where she starts to come out of a way people don't care. And so this is probably a huge learning experience for her to be able to say, hey, I had a great relationship with this woman and I told her the truth.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and most of them don't care, but you never know who that's going to be. So is this person going to be the one who doesn't care, or is this person going to be the one that turns you in? So that's why you're always cautious.
Chapter 10 tells you who didn't care.
Yeah.
Or who cares.
Right. And then she talks about how Gabriel and Gwendolyn were born just a few days later. That's now 10 children. How Gwendolyn came to her in the AUB, and I'm sure this is in other religions. It's just, I know the AUB, so that's what I'm going to refer to. There's meaning in everything. There's symbolism in everything. And everyone always has the spirit that comes to them and says things to them. And I do believe this. I'm not trying to mock this in any way. I actually do believe this. But one of the things she says is that Gwendolyn came to her and told her that her name was Gwendolyn, and that that Cody didn't like the name Gwendolyn, and that people would come up to her and touch her belly, and Gwendolyn wanted to just be seen. And so she would touch, kick back on the tummy or whatever. And that Gwendolyn loved everything to be fair and just. And that she loves things to be balanced, and the justice and the blindfold and the scales. And that her birth was Christine's absolute favorite. And then she still talks about when Gwendolyn got older and said, I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's right. Mary or Christine went back and said, oh, that's right. That's the traits that I take on. And it took her years to realize that's what she was doing, was taking the traits on of her children. And again, I hadn't looked at it like that, but I can definitely see how it's like a co-thing. It's like the children take on what you are feeling emotionally as a mother, and then you take on what they're feeling. Yeah. So I really appreciated that angle of this book.
I did too.
I really want to talk to your mom about her experience with you when you were pregnant.
When she was pregnant.
Or did I say you pregnant? Yeah. So I really want to talk to her about that too. And then she talks about polygamy really appealed to her because she wanted the children to have the experience of other moms, because she had such a great experience with her other mom, and her other mom is wonderful. Susan is an amazing person. I've always had a lot of respect and admiration for her. But she wanted the friendships. She wanted the sister wives. She didn't understand how much work would go into being a sister wife. And then she goes on to say, when you think about it, 50% of marriages end in divorce. So what are the chances of building permanent, loving relationships with 3 adults you barely know? It was work, but I was committed. And she says, I was also figuring out my spot in the family. And that's the hardest part about this whole religion, is we've said a dozen times that these courtships are so fast, because you don't want a married man dating these single, young girls. So the courtships are so fast. There's no time to get to know each other. Are we compatible? Are we not compatible? It's just, you throw it all in there and hope it works. Oh.
And it's a contract. Cody's telling the truth there to him and to most of them in there. This is just a contract.
Right.
This is going to get us into heaven. So
Yeah. Yeah.
deal with it. Here's the rules you follow. And all I'm doing is following within those guidelines of the rules. So, and you made a contract, so you can't leave, and you need to add to the family pot. So,
Oh, and by the way, you signed a contract. Huh?
yeah.
So, then she talks about finding her position in the family. She talks about Thanksgiving, how they had at one point 72 people for dinner. I mean, hell, you probably had that much at your house. We had that too. That's very common. And so let's see, she figured out, I know there's a lot of Easter eggs in here. People talk about that. Here's where she talks about Mary liked to cook the turkey and Cody liked the turkey. So I thought that was kind of funny that he answered. Do you want to, you want to read that one?
No.
Thank you so much. I don't want to,
Yasina.
Yeah, shatter your name. It says Yesenia Shavaria. The status is so clear when it comes to Cody talking about Robin's children and loyalty to him. It seems that the loyalty is paid back with his time.
It is.
That's exactly what it is.
Yep.
And you do what you're asked.
Time and his love bombing.
So. Yep. So then she just good.
Just the contracts that they sign are in garments and oil or something like that. They sign them in
Maybe blood oath at some point
and stuff like that. So those are pretty hefty duty contracts. So.
Yeah. And then she talks about how Mary has very specific. I'm going to guess that Mary was probably pretty worried about this book because I feel like Mary is now is different. I mean, in my experiences with Mary, she's a lot different. I would never want to be her sister wife. No offense, Mary, if you ever watch this, but I would never want to be her sister wife. But my experience with Mary, we've always gotten along really well. And so, and I've always really liked Mary, but I can see where Christine would feel this way. And I think people would say these things about me. They would not want to be my sister wife.
Melanie wouldn't be a good
I wouldn't.
First sister wife. So
yeah, I would not be a good sister wife. I would be the bossy one. I'd be like, yeah. So then she talks about how, specific foods were for specific holidays and you can't veer from that. And that's sad.
Tradition.
Tradition. And I think that's sad that the whole family felt that they had to tiptoe around one person. I understand that our family had to do that too with one wife. And it's exhausting. It's exhausting because you can't celebrate holidays the way you want to celebrate them. You can't do the things that you want to do with your children. You can, and you, in my opinion, you should, but most of the women don't do it because they don't want to rock the boat.
But there's benefits to being the wife that is difficult to be around too. You're the one that gets the home built first and away from the other ones because these two wives can get along. These can coexist for a bit. This one can't. So it's almost like that sometimes being that difficult one, being that that louder wife comes with some benefits of getting that first home built, getting to be in the far end of the thing and where these wives can share.
These wives can coexist, so they have to share a home.
They have to share, or they have a wall where then she would get the bedroom that's farther away. So if it works, and you get what you were looking for. So sometimes would there be difficulties just so that you would have separation from those other wives? So it incentivizes frustrations. So.
Right. Well, and too, another thing is like with my mom, she would always be just the chill wife, right? My mom was like, whatever happens. My kid, I don't need to worry about my kids that much. And so then I felt like the wife that was always in control was harder on us because I'm going to make up for all the time your mom slacked off. I'm going to make up for all the time that your mom didn't correct you when you needed correction. And so I can see that just based on some of the wording that Christine uses in here, that probably happened with some of the kids with Mary. Mary overcompensated for what she felt like Christine lacked. And that would be my experience. And that would be your experience as a kid probably too. And then she goes on to talk about how all the wives are working together in the home, and she breaks down how they're all working together for traditions and family holidays. But she loved every bit of planning and preparing meals together. And I've seen wives be very cohesive with each other when it comes to that kind of stuff, because they are trying to. It's funny. I have a home video, and you can see all these wives in the kitchen cooking together. All my dad's wives, and I'm the one recording. And you can hear, well, actually, my dad was recording. You can hear the way that they're talking to each other, and I'm like, oh, she just said it with the happiest smile on her face. No worries, I'll get the yams out of the oven. But under her breath, she's like, yeah, you dumb. And so it's like, it's funny because we're ad-libbing as we're watching this. So yeah, she just goes off about how Garrison and the graham crackers, and I mean, I think it's sweet. She's trying to throw some memories of Garrison in here. She also talks about how Cody didn't want to do Christmas because his best friend decided they were only going to celebrate Jewish holidays. He felt that was more pleasing to God. That's exhausting for me to read, because I get so exhausted with these men who are like, oh, I'm going to be next to God. What do we need to do for that?
This is Cody's pious moments too. So
exactly.
And yeah. And I feel like sometimes that it's, oh, you've got a tradition of Christmas and doing all this stuff. And everybody seems to be liking that. Let's switch that up. Let's change this.
Everyone seems too happy. We got to throw some misery in there.
Will be like, maybe we should do something that we want to be more Christ-like. Let's do the holidays that Christ did. Oh, since Christine's the one that's putting this all together, you need to update her on that too. So
yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's very common for these men we don't want to do pagan holidays. Yeah, we don't want to do pagan holidays, so we're going to stop doing all of these things. And it is, to me as a child, I always felt like, oh, we're too happy. You got to ruin that. But her Aunt Susan, so her other mother, Susan, was worried that the kids would be sad and they should replace it with something equally as fun. And some people don't care about that. It's just like, oh, learn to, this is what God wants us to do, so this is what we're doing. It is a very pious moment on Cody's part.
Yeah.
Then she talks about homeschooling the 10 children. And she was homeschooling 10 children under the age of 13. And she knew that they weren't getting the education that they needed. And she talks about how she's working at the museum. She spent one evening a week at Walmart. She had a paper route, and she was homeschooling these children. That's insanity.
She was adding to the kingdom.
Right.
So filling in and adding to the kingdom. So
right.
She just wasn't dropping bills on the table so that Cody and Janelle could take care of it.
Right.
So.
Right. So let's see. Somebody says, do you think No Christmas was also influenced by the lack of money? 100%. I think it was. In my experience, your experience might be a little different.
Yeah, because we really didn't have money for Christmas. Yes, there was an exchange of gifts, but it was usually a homemade exchange of gifts that we did. So we didn't really, later on in life, as we had our own jobs and did stuff like that, we did get better gifts. But especially as young kids, it was mostly about getting together, doing the little play thing and stuff like that. Doing the play, having good food, playing games. That's what we did for our Christmas. And having the tree going. It was a whole season of stuff that we did. Going and getting the tree, caroling, taking food items, freshly baked breads, things like that, to the widows and widowers of the community, singing Christmas carols, which kind of, some people were like, don't come sing Christmas carols to our house because we're not celebrating. But the elderly people, that we would go and do that. And so eventually we went down to the elderly community in Hamilton and would sing to them. So it was traditions that she's setting up, and our family was very no, we're going to continue this tradition. It's something that the kids are loving and looking forward to. Other families within the community were like, you guys shouldn't be doing that, judged, and we were disobedient. So I did it anyhow. And we didn't celebrate Hanukkah or whatever it was in place of Christmas. So
Yeah.
so,
And then she moves on to talk about this girl who showed an interest in Cody, that she flirted with him constantly. Flirting with a married guy is not cool. What I found funny about this part is she said that she called Cody constantly and he spent a lot of time with her on the phone. And yet a few chapters earlier, she's like, yeah, I was talking to Cody about this on the phone when I wasn't married to him. So maybe that's why it triggered her a little bit more, is because this girl was doing to her what she had done to Janelle and Mary. But she felt like, what?
yeah, when she was. Yeah.
But she felt like this girl had disrespected their marriages. I love when she says in here that this girl's parents had 2 wives, or there was 2 wives in that family, and they should have known better. She says that so many times in this book. They should have known better.
Based on the piety of the rules, following the rules. That's part of the rules in here. And so I felt like Cody is learning right here. She's kind of saying, well, wait a minute, these are the rules that we followed, and she's not following those exact rules. And so Cody's probably marking something down in his little book right now that, oh, I've got to get one wife on board, because she says in here, you need to be. And so Cody's like, oh crap, this deal fell apart.
Yep.
Because the wife didn't go make friends with one of the other wives. So that's probably conversations that he's had with Robin, and that's why she became friends with Mary.
And that's exactly what I wrote down in here. So Christine says, you should have been brown-nosing me. In a plural family, you have to build a relationship with the wives too. And you chose to ignore us. That is your problem. You will never get further than this. This relationship's over. And I wrote in here, why didn't she do this with Robin? She didn't meet Robin for a long time. So why did she find the courage to do this, but she didn't find the courage to do that with Robin? I know she struggled with Robin, and that could be part of it. I wish she would have written about that in this book. And she might. We just haven't picked it apart enough to see that in future chapters. But yeah, she talks about that she put a stop to this immediately. And, I know that fire in the belly. I had to do that with my ex-husband, a couple girls too, where I was just like, yeah, this isn't going to happen. You need to back up. And so I feel like this is very common for some women to find that inner strength. I was very conforming to all the things. I don't know where that strength came from, but one day I was just like, yeah, back up, girl. This won't happen. Then she talks about how their kids didn't call each other aunt, because they felt like in our culture, it is, I called my other mom's aunt. So I'd say Aunt so-and-so or Aunt so-and-so. And they felt like that's synonymous with other mom, but they didn't want to do that. And other families did say Mother Mary, Mother Christine, that felt too old fashioned. When I've seen it on the show and I've seen Logan say, oh, Christine, and I always felt like that felt a little disrespectful, because we were always taught that was very disrespectful. You referred to these other mothers with a title or a status because that showed respect. And so I was always very surprised that the Brown kids did that. And so I was happy that she addressed that in here, because that's always been a question on my mind.
Hey, Joycey.
Yeah. Yeah, because you do that too. You're like, no, but you call her aunt sometimes.
I call her aunt too, but
yeah. And
nicknames for them all.
Yeah.
So, hey, Joycey. Hey.
Yeah.
Charcoal.
And again,
Rebecca.
This goes back to what we were saying earlier, that she appreciated that she had sister wives because they had a community of women that she trusted, that she could have help raise her children, that had the same morals and same values, and that the other wives could help sculpt her children into good people. And so that is another thing right there that I just feel like this is not something that what we were saying earlier. We'll call it that. So she created her own village to help raise children. I think this is very smart and can backfire a ton, because there are so many naive people that come out of this. They're not prepared for the real world because we lived in a bubble. We were raised in a bubble. So we were not. So sometimes I feel like the village thing is amazing And then I also see the flip side of it where it can be harmful for kids because they don't know what the real world's like. Now you've got all these kids raised in bubbles. These men don't know how to go out and get real jobs. They don't know how to go out and get high paying jobs. So they take whatever job comes their way because they've been too sheltered. So I see both sides of that, I guess. Then she also talks about seeing other beautiful, we're going to kind of speed up a little bit because we are going long now. So she talks about how she saw the beautiful relationships between other sister wives. When her grandpa died, her grandmothers became very close. They'd always been best friends. So her grandpa Rulin, when he died and was killed, he actually married a set of twins. And so of course a lot of these women are friends after they die. But she says grandpa was brilliant at plural marriage. Each of his wives believed that she was his favorite. We heard these stories our entire lives, that they all believed that. They each said that they knew the other wife also believed that they were the favorite. He made them all feel special and like he loved them as individuals. One of the things that we talked about earlier, the two of us talked about, is it's because he was killed, so he is martyred. You only try to remember the best in people when they're killed. So I feel like if he would have stayed alive, would I personally, in my experience and based on the stories that I've heard of him, the AUB would have been more like the FLDS because he was very controlling and he did have very controlling tendencies. We saw that with some of his children. We see in some of the stories that were passed down to us. Cory's going to I'm going to go stay quiet because my mom will kill me. My mom will probably kill me for saying this because they all adore him. They all worshiped him. But it's easy to put and only see the good side of people when they've passed, when they're not here to still continue to make mistakes. They're not here to continue to be controlling. But Rulin was very controlling. He controlled a lot of his children and a lot of his wives. And so I think that we would have been a lot closer to the FLDS. Owen was a lot more of a liberal thinking and a lot more of a free thinker, where he gave people a lot more choices, where Rulin didn't necessarily do that.
Well, Owen was wanting the AUB to assimilate more into the world. So he wanted us as saints to assimilate, to get high-paying jobs, to do all that stuff, to become educated, and to be a part of the world with just living a higher thing and not being separate as much.
Yeah.
And I mean, he was brilliant at plural marriage. I can say probably, so I'll say this about my dad. He was brilliant, I guess, at plural marriage. And I would say the same thing. Probably at some time within the relationships of each one of his wives, they probably thought and were the favorite at one time. So each wife, I was the favorite in 1973 to 74. So yes, he had his favorites all throughout his life. He had different favorites. So
yeah, and of course, when he passes, all these women are going to speak about him endearingly because they loved him,
for Rulin.
Oh yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, sorry. Because all of Rulin's wives loved him. I mean, I think if Cody passed before the family broke up, the wives would have spoken endearingly about him too. And so I feel like, but Rulin was very strict, and he also was very strict towards some of his children and did not give them choice. He did not, if one of his daughters specifically chose a person to be married, and he said absolutely not, and ripped her from that marriage and put her in a different marriage. So he wasn't always exactly this saint that people want to put him. And he did court a 14-year-old and married her at 15, and he was 39.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not trying to bag on him right now. It's just that
grandpa.
Yeah.
Okay, good for you, not diminishing her grandpa.
Right.
You're diminishing the prophet of the AUB.
Right. There you go.
There
you go. So yeah. So I do appreciate that she has an endearment towards him, but there's a lot of people who didn't. And so
my parents did. They have the same endearment towards him. That's why my mom's still a part of the AUB, is because of Rulin. It's not because of any of the other prophets. So,
Right. And I agree with this. McDuff says, interesting that the brothers had such different approaches. They really did. But everyone spoke about Rulon with very high endearment. Yeah. He was very seldom ever talked about, talked down about. And so it's almost like saying this on camera is like, oh gosh, is lightning going to come and strike us because we're saying this, because we were taught to speak with utmost respect. But the man also could be very controlling. Okay, so then she talks about, they are living in Montana or Wyoming again. She talks about the kissing got better. Cody would ask her, what do you want to do for your birthday? And she said, can we go for a drive and make out? He was never that was never something he wanted to do, but he was attentive in other ways. So I'm like, yeah, that sucks. That sucks that he is like, yeah, I don't want to really go make out with you. I know we never have time and it's your birthday and you get to pick, but I don't want to do that. And so he went and got her a ring.
yeah.
What?
And it's probably insulting to him. Like, I need to practice kissing. I'm so good at it. Got these six-pack abs. Look at his lips. I'm already really good at it. Well, can we practice more? No. No. Sorry, Cody.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're a good kisser somewhere. Yeah.
I think I think that's sad that for a birthday gift, you have to ask your husband to go make out with you. Like, that's sad to me. But I mean, my ex-husband, I never wanted to kiss. We never kissed. We never held hands. We never talked. Like, we just didn't. Ugh. But yeah. Okay. And then she talks about having Isabel, and Isabel was an awkward looking baby. And her dad tells her she looks just like her. And she's like, absolutely not. Christine is the daddy's girl. Isabel becomes a daddy's girl. At this point, they now have 12 children. Cody's usually gone during the week for work, and then he'd come home and he'd do something with the kids for the weekend. So there's really no time to nurture these relationships. There isn't, because he's working 24/7. You what?
Nicole says, I wonder how Rulon was able to deliver in Pinesdale and Utah. Isn't that a long distance between? It is a really long distance between.
He didn't do a lot of deliveries in Pinesdale.
I wasn't delivered in Pinesdale. I didn't move up to Pinesdale till I was 2 or 3 years old. So I was actually delivered down here. I was born in Utah, right near.
We were born in the same city.
Yep, right.
Murray, Utah.
Our family was only asked to move up there after myself and my little brother were born. And then I had 5 older brothers from other marriages. And our whole family moved up to Pinesdale at that point in time, where another midwife took over it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and that midwife is very, very well revered up there. A lot of people really loved her. Let's see. She talks about, she gives a lot of.
I had a good story from my brother-in-law about that one. So thank you for that story.
Oh, I don't remember the story. Did we just hear that when we were just in Montana?
Yeah, because she delivered my little sister that he's married to. So yeah. So everyone's related to everyone somehow. But she does. She talks about how when Cody had weekends, he would spend them with the kids, which seems right. And they all revere Cody as a very good dad in the beginning, but. It's because he didn't care to hang out with his wives. Then he found a wife he loved, and he's like, just kidding. I don't have any more time for you women or you children. I only have time for this one woman. What were you saying? Nothing. I'm reading.
Okay.
Right.
She starts talking about, she gives a lot of accolades to Garrison in the book too, which is really sweet. We're just going to move through some of that though, not because we don't want to touch on it, but just because A, this is getting long, and B, I want to talk more about some of the things that
we're looking for the polygamous stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So this is amazing that there is such a good connection. She is a mother that all the kids tend to have an amazing connection with.
Yeah.
And that's unique. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Because I appreciate that about some of my connections too that I've built.
And I did not have a mother like that, so it's great. But she talks about her mom and her continued to work on her relationship. And what I love how she focuses on her relationship with her mom, because this is so true. These relationships become so strained when somebody leaves, especially somebody who told you this was the only way back to heaven your entire life, and now you have to re-question everything. And so she said that she felt like her mom was forever changing her identity, and she didn't understand that until much later in life. Now Christine is constantly evolving and finding herself now. And but she was the best grandma ever. And she said that they stopped trying to reconcile her not being in the church anymore and decided to just be a mother and a daughter. That is a huge milestone for someone to get to in this religion, because the AUB does not ostracize people like the FLDS does, or like the Kingstons do if they leave, but there still is separation there. And so the fact that they decided to just reconcile being mother and daughter is a huge step for someone in this religion to have. And so I really wanted to point out that part of it, and that her mom's new boyfriend, who eventually became her husband, helped her heal her relationship with her mother. And how could he do that when he was a Gentile? So I love that she found the goodness in other people, and that it's not just a priesthood holder in the AUB that has the ability to heal, that there are other people are out there that can heal too.
Well, she was able to watch her mom, her example, go through the same process that she eventually does. So that you're assuming that they're a bad person, you know what I mean? Because they're not believing the way that they raised you to believe. But then when they turn out not to be, it's kind of cool. She gets to see two different examples of that, and follows basically in her mom's footsteps. So
yeah,
it was awesome.
Yeah, I really appreciated the fact that she can recognize that and acknowledge it. Then she talks about Janelle moving away from the family for about 8 months. That's Janelle's story to tell. She talks about 14 people being in the family, and Cody's only concerned with one, and he wants to move back to Utah. And she talks about being poor, but they had a magical garden, canned bottles, and food in bulk. It seems to me like she really did that Wyoming really was magical for them. She says she's just trying to create a better life for her and her family. Or Cody says to her, "I'm just trying to create a better life for my family." And Christine wants to balk at that. She doesn't want to move back to Utah. So that chapter, let's see.
Chapter 9.
Yeah. Oh,
it was a bummer.
Yep. So I want to see.
This was the slap on Cody. So.
Yep. Okay. So chapter 9, we got to keep going. We got to move on. This is going to be a long live. She talks about moving back to Utah, and they asked her, so now she wants to take her kids to the Utah private school. It's the Polygamous church school. And they asked her, do you have anyone who can teach? And so it's an organized homeschool that met 3 days a week. And so she talks about taking her kids out there for the first day. I actually taught at this school for a while too. We took our kids out there for a while. My oldest was young. He was a baby. So I didn't have any children that actually attended the school, but I taught there. Mary's mom helped me get my homeschooling license so that I could teach out at the private school.
Her mother or her stepmom or her?
Mary's mom, Mary's biological mom.
Mary's mom. Okay.
Bonnie. Yeah. So Bonnie helped me get homeschool certified, and then I homeschooled my own children after that. Good.
No, and then she makes a statement in here, and I wrote it down here, that 10 years of marriage. You don't have time for
Talk louder.
You don't have time for sister wives to get together. So she's basically, her and her sister wives didn't get together a lot. They were all busy working, doing the different jobs, trying to survive. And so later on in the show, when they're all doing the sister wives get together and bonding stuff, that wasn't a reality in the first 16 years of their lives. So.
Yeah, that's why we say when we watch, when we watch the episodes, we're like, this isn't real life. That's not what they do.
When do you have time to do that? You should be working to build the kingdom of God. If you have time to go sit with your sister wives in a
coffee shop
or coffee shop you should have another job. So
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah.
You should be working
And then
somewhere
she
else.
talks about how the kids were like, what the heck? Logan says to her, I told somebody today I have 3 moms, and they told me they had 2 moms, and this was confusing for their children. And she says, and this is what's funny, is I related so much to this when she was like, oh, I didn't even think to tell my children that this was the polygamist ran school. And she had not even thought about that. And she's like, everyone at the school has multiple moms, and every child in the car breathed a sigh of relief because she had forgotten to mention that this was a church school, which is funny because I totally related to that. My oldest son said, Grandpa's a I'd kept my kids so far away from it. He says, Grandpa is a polygamist. And I was like, yeah, what, like, you didn't know Grandpa was a polygamist? And I guess I had just forgot to have conversations like that with my kids because I'd kept them so far away from it. Thank you so much. Oh, it says, hurry with your boo. Duchess Cinnabon, thank you for the super chat. I'm not sure what the comment is, though. Hurry with your boo.
Book.
Oh, book. Hurry with your book. I know we're making this long, aren't we? And so next time, I don't know if we'll cover 5 chapters. We were trying to cover 5 chapters at a time, but this is taking so long. So they were relieved. The kids were relieved that they didn't have to lie anymore. And I never went to school with any of my brothers and sisters, so we didn't have to lie about it. Cory lived on a compound. They all were the same. He didn't have to lie about it. And then she talks about moving back to West Jordan, and that she loved it because for the first 4 months, she got to live alone with Cody. And I thought that was interesting that she had Janelle's kids in Utah while Janelle lived in Wyoming. And that so Janelle didn't have to worry about daycare. So she had Janelle's kids down here at the private school. I don't know if I could do that as a mother. I don't think I could let my kids move away from me like that. But we've all heard Janelle say multiple times that she, the mothering part wasn't always her favorite. What do you say?
Hurry with your book. You writing a book. Hurry up, I think is that what?
Oh, hurry with me writing a book. That's what's interesting too, is as I read this book, I'm thinking of all the things that I could do a book about. Yeah. So then she talks about buying the big house in Lehigh. And she talks about buying the book in the house in Lehigh. And she talks about how she had 5 kids, Mary had 1, Janelle had 6. That put us at 16 people. And they end up buying this home down in Lehigh, which is not too far from us.
Yeah, near the compound down there, right? Yeah.
Well, it's a street where there's a whole bunch of polygamists that live on that street. And
uniquely built homes. So basically triplexes.
Yeah.
All looking like from the outside one home. So
and so
built by polygamists. So.
What's funny is my kids went to a school. It wasn't a polygamous school, but it was a charter school, so it's a smaller school. And a bunch of polygamous kids went there, and they became friends with people who lived on the street. So they're going to these houses, and all of a sudden they see a grandma at one of these houses, and they're like, "What are you doing here? Like, how do you know these? How do you know my friend from school?" But didn't realize, I guess, the connection. I should have talked to my kids a little bit more about stuff like that. But yeah. So she becomes a teacher at the school. Let's see. She talks about how she finally finds a purpose in her family. That she is now homeschooling the kids. She finds purpose in this, or teaching at the private school, which I love that. I enjoyed my time teaching there. What was interesting is in this little school that my kids went to, one of the teachers was one of the kids I taught in the polygamous church. He grew up and got a formal teaching education and then taught at my kids' school. So then he became my teacher's math, my kids' math teacher. Yeah, and we're still good friends to this day. So, but he's not a part of the AUB. We're not a part of the AUB anymore. So I thought it was interesting.
He got a real education.
Yeah, he went and got really, yeah. So
taught our kids, so they're smart.
Right. So then she talks about how her and Mary became friends for a while and even worked as camp counselors together. And I loved that time. This is how I remember Mary and Christine together. They were girls camp was one of the most fun things that we could do as kids. I loved it. I went every year. This is how I remember Mary and Christine, is just being super good friends and being camp counselors together. We would do skits every year, and then they would win the skits. Let's see. Thank you, Aunt Mitty, for that super chat. Says, I love you guys. 2, do you think Mary would have left Cody if Bonnie were still alive? Probably not. There's a lot of pressure there.
But to be honest, I don't think Mary would have ever left him if it wasn't for the show too. So she's
I think she was
in love with him.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't him pushing so hard to get her away, she would have never left him. Yeah, if it wasn't for the show, if it wasn't for the things that he's done, he would have had those 3 wives be in love with him and stay with him forever. So, I don't think she would have left him.
Well, and just based on our experiences too, when we got divorced, I don't think that we would have gotten divorced. Cory had an aunt that I highly respected, and she was very much a part of our lives and our married lives. And I remember during our divorce thinking, she's going to be so disappointed in us. She's going to look down from heaven and she's going to be so disappointed in me. And so I think there's something to be said about wanting to have favor with your what do you want to call it? Not ancestors, but the older people, the older generation that you look up to and respect. So, but she also says in here that none of them would have chosen to be best friends if they hadn't of the little things that drive you nuts with each other wouldn't have mattered if they'd spent so much time together.
Yeah, if they'd gotten to know each other before they signed those contracts, they probably wouldn't have signed the contracts. So. Yeah,
she says, if you have personality conflicts with someone, you probably don't share a house, a husband, or date a husband daily and to eternity and beyond.
Yep. I love that.
It's so true. Like you wouldn't. These are not normal situations where you would get together and say, "Oh, I like her enough to let her sleep with my husband." You don't normally have that.
This for eternity.
Yeah. So she also learned over the years you don't have to make time to develop friendships just as you do a marriage. While we often talked about improving ourselves, maybe we didn't talk often enough about the commitment and the trust and the time that it takes to make these friendships. So that I love that she's being honest about that right there, because I feel like the whole show is called Sister Wives. It's trying to show, and then you've got the amateur on there that knows everything about being a sister wife. And yet which is Robin, and here you've got Christine going, we didn't know how to be friends. And yet the whole show is about being sister wives and the closeness and all this other crap that is crap, that it doesn't happen. It does not happen in most families. She does talk about she misses the camaraderie that they had in Wyoming. When you put a bunch of women together with a common goal and a common purpose,
survival,
then they learn to survive with each other. They learn how to work together. But yeah, she talks about how she felt lonely in the house in Utah, in the Lehigh house. She felt lonely because they all had their own kitchens. They weren't connecting like they did before. She does put on here, Mary said in an interview that she and I did fine as housemates for a while, but our relationship never went deep. She says that's true, and that's not a dig at either one of us. It's hard to find people that we click enough with to spend significant time with and make sense. And it makes sense that it was automatic. I wasn't automatically going to bond with someone Cody picked, and that Mary and Janelle wouldn't necessarily bond with me either. And that's the thing, is that they're not sexually attracted to each other the way that Cody might be. They're not mentally, spiritually, anything attracted to each other the way Cody is. That's the relationship between the wives and Cody. And so, but yet they're the primary ones that hold the family together.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part, is because they're the ones that primarily hold the family together. And he's just there, like, screwing around in the background, doing whatever he's doing. Yeah, I get frustrated with the men in this. They do very little. So, but she talks about how living in this home together was so hard that Mary reacted very harshly when her kids roughhoused, and that she had a bunch of breakables in her home. So much that Christine didn't want her kids around Mary. That she, if her kids were in Mary's section of the house, she could count on her kids getting in trouble or doing something wrong. And she had an abundance of rules for us to follow about folding towels or whatever. So this part cracked me up so much, because she talks about Mary playing country music so loud that you could hear it through the entire house. It didn't matter if someone was trying to take a nap. It didn't matter if somebody had a baby down or anything like that. This is passive aggressive behavior that a lot of sister wives do. My mom has done it herself, where she was pissed off at my dad and the other wife, and just storms across the floor, flush the toilet, storm across the floor. This is very passive aggressive. We are taught at a very, very young age, even if it's never verbally spoken, we are taught to be passive aggressive extremely. I have never in my lifetime ever met women who are more passive aggressive than polygamous women. Ever. And this is another reason why you're told the world is scary and that people out there are scary, because you watch this passive aggressiveness as a child and you're like, shit, I don't want to go in the real world and experience that. That's terrible. If it's this bad with these women, what's the real world like? And then you get into the real world and you start to see people and you're like, oh my gosh, people are nice. I didn't know people could be this nice, because all you've ever dealt with was passive aggressiveness. Mm-hmm. And so all of a sudden you're like, wow, not every woman on this planet sucks. Not every man is lazy. And so, yeah, what do you think? I'm doing all the talking. I'm trying to buzz through these chapters.
Well, I'm just waiting for you to get down. So
no, because you got your section right there that you wrote down.
Well, I just jumped to where she did admit, hey, Mary was the top wife.
Yeah.
And there was, and at this point in time, and so that's where that's what people need to understand. There's top wives, but it happens different times within the whole family. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. For a moment there, Christine was the top wife when they got for 2 weeks when she got to go out to Nauvoo with them. So yeah. It's that. This is kind of that. The husband made them all feel like that they were the top wife at some point in time when they were being the most obedient or the most keeping sweet. They got to be the top wife for a little bit. So
right.
It's and at this point in time, Mary was a top wife.
Well, and somebody says in here, but Christine seemed to know Mary well enough and ahead of time. They were close for a while. It's always different when someone starts having sex with your husband. It will change the dynamic of your relationship. There's just no way it wouldn't. And so, yes, they were friends before, but the minute someone starts having sex with your husband, yeah, a different side of you comes out. Maybe even a side that Mary didn't even know she had.
Well, and there's also that they were friends before. There's a facade that's put on. Their job is to get more wives coming into the family, mm-hmm. to build up the kingdom, to help out on raising kids, to making money, to doing all of that stuff. So these wives are being friendly to all the other girls in there, seeing who's going to come in there, they can most work with. Doesn't mean after you've signed the contract that we're going to still be friends. So that was the friend face I put on, or the look I put on. And yes, they probably had some level of friendship, but messing around, joking around, doing stuff like that. But it's a tight space. And the minute you start ripping on each other's kids, then you have the mama bears that come out. So.
Right. Well, someone else says, if Mary was the favorite wife, how did she get so easily dismissed? There becomes a point where people in the family get tired. They get exhausted, and then they just go, no more. I don't. And when you move out of living all together and now you have separate homes, it's easier to dismiss each other. And that's my experience. That's what I think happened, is that enough people in the family had enough of, at least this is my experience in my own family, enough of us children grew up and got older. And so we could say, enough of you. We don't have to listen to you anymore because we're not little kids anymore. and then you can dismiss it.
Yeah, it sounds like, and again, it's Janelle's story to tell, but that she dismissed Mary right on. I mean, to the point where she was going to move in with her family. She is tired of it. She was exhausted of the way it was going on, to the point where she was dismissed not only Mary but Cody also, and moved out of their happy union, which probably is not going to be then Cody needs to turn on the love bombing to get her back, because that doesn't look good to the outside family, outside people. You can't even, you got wives living with their parents. You can't afford all these families. He can't get other wives if he can't create peace within his family and organize it and run it and lead it as a priesthood leader. So why give him more wives to have them move in with their parents? So
Sugar Innos, thank you so much for that $10 super chat. We appreciate that. Someone else says, I wonder if it's normal to adopt 3 biological kids in the AUB. No, we won't go into that too much, but no, it's not normal at all.
It is normal if you want to become the legal wife. So that's when it becomes reason. Again, made for TV.
Yeah.
And legally to get your name on all of the legal documents. So she's been through a divorce before. She's going to prepare this time that legal divorce for Cody and Mary were to do it while Mary was trying to please Cody and Robin, have a good story on it, but now Robin can become the legal wife and have that prenup, or that if she ever decides to leave, she has something attached to it.
Right.
So
Christine keeps going on. It says she didn't, she had a falling out with Mary. She didn't trust that Mary would be kind, particularly in front of other people. She said that Mary would say demeaning things about her when she was with her family and in front of her. Talk about Christine's weight, her intelligence, her parenting skills. We could be laughing, telling stories, but then she'd throw a painful dart and I would feel myself deflate. Again, very passive aggressive. This is exactly how I was taught to be this way. It really took a lot of unwinding in myself to not be this way. And I still find myself doing this sometimes. And I ask Cory, please point this out to me if I do this, because this is not the kind of person I want to be, but this is who we were trained to be.
And we've taught our kids different. And they're like, no,
oh my gosh.
So
our kids will call us out on it in a heartbeat. Our daughter will be like, hey mom, stop saying that kind of stuff. That's ridiculous. We're getting a little shiny. I'm turning the light down a little bit.
Or be along the lines of putting slivers in our relationship, things like that. So they're very educated.
Our kids are very emotionally intelligent.
And we have educated ourselves, educated our kids, so that they can help keep us in check, if you will, from childhood traumas.
And we don't use that as an excuse to just behave badly, but it's sometimes just we don't think about it.
Second thought.
And so then we just behave that way, and then our kids are like,
and they're like,
really, Mom?
So,
yeah. So then she talks about Mary, even with one child to care for, was the top wife in the polygamous pyramid. There's always a status. We followed her rules when she was around to keep the peace, but her rules felt punitive and unfair. And Christine had to figure out what was best for her and her family. And that changed their relationship forever. I love it when women will stand up for this kind of thing. My mom has had to do it several times throughout the marriages or throughout the years, but it doesn't, I wish that more women would do it in a more, because it is so passive aggressive. It's like, you don't get to be around my children anymore. I'm just going to move and not say anything. I wish that there was more communication. I wish families talked more about this. Hey, I'm moving and this is why. But they don't. They just go, I can't live with you anymore. I'm out. And then the family breaks down.
And then there's rule changes within the family. We had a rule change within our family where you discipline your own children and
don't discipline mine.
Yeah, not other children, other wife's children, because,
Mhm.
and yet some still felt like it was
Their
necessary,
responsibility.
their responsibility and necessary. It's necessary. That wife isn't disciplining the child the way he should be, and he's going to come out rebellious.
Right. So I know this video is getting really long, but we will break it down into chapters. And so you'll find those in the show notes later. So the program that we have will break it all down into chapters. So if there's something specific that you want to go straight to, you can. And we'll make sure that we upload that. Let's see. She talks about a situation with Leon and McKelty, and McKelty being a couple pennies short at the store. And that she thought that the cashier helped McKelty make up that difference. But it was embarrassing for Leon. Leon was highly embarrassed. This goes back to what we were saying earlier about the superiority of the children and how that creates a hierarchy, how that creates and it's not Leon's fault that this happened. It is the way that it is. She didn't even realize that this was happening, I'm sure. And so,
this has probably been handed down from the parents. I mean, just earlier or chapter before, it was stated that you couldn't have a fourth wife because you can't take care of your family. If you're getting 10 cents to make up the difference, you can't be taking care of the family. We don't want to be embarrassed to be known as the family who needs an extra 10 cents at the thing. And so this is a roll downhill thing where we can't add to the family. We can't add to our kingdom if we look like that we can't afford 10 cents. So,
yeah.
And so the whole family is trying to put on that look, trying to put on that,
right.
So that dad can look like he can afford a sports car.
Yeah.
So we need an extra 10 cents at the candy shop.
Right. And so is it Leon's fault that this happened? No. But is it McKelty's fault that it happened? No. Mary was the adult here. And
There's
so
pressure being put on from top all the way down.
But Leon is embarrassed. And because the family should be able to afford things that they can't afford. And so she talks about let's see. She yelled at McKelty, who couldn't understand what she did wrong. Christine didn't see what McKelty did wrong either. This was the day after a series of too many similar experiences. She ended her friendship with Mary. She'd had enough, and the mama bear came roaring out. And this is very typical. The kids are this is where the children then create beliefs about themselves. What did I do wrong that I broke up the family? What did I do wrong that I made my moms not like each other? What did I do wrong? And so this is what's really sad is most polygamous people don't have the emotional intelligence to even communicate with their kids. This isn't your fault. This is something that's going on between us. And that's what's sad is because then we as the children create these beliefs about ourselves. And we move through life with these beliefs that we broke the family or that we did something that we didn't do. And so Christine ends up yelling at Mary saying, don't talk to my kids. I don't want you near them. I don't want you to come downstairs anymore. Our relationship is over. I've seen this fight one too many times between sister wives. But it wasn't. So that's what she says. She may have been the mediator between Mary and Janelle, but it wasn't fair for Mary to take her mess out on Christine's children. And Mary and Christine didn't feel safe around this. Mary and I loved hanging out, but ultimately I never knew what to expect from her. I needed my kids to feel strong, supported, and safe, and not like the rules were always changing on them. It was the right thing to do for my children.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's how we grew up.
Yeah.
That's how she grew up.
Yeah.
So that's the economy or the culture we grew up in. So.
Yep.
And she's wanting to create more of a stable environment for her kids. Awesome.
Right. So she talks about she never knew when Mary would be belittling or just simply mean. And the thing is that I don't think that Mary is genuinely this way. This religion brings out the ugliest parts of people. I love Mary. I've loved having a friendship with Mary. She has been wonderful. I just think this religion brings out the ugly parts of people. And that's what they say. Oh, it's so that you can refine this and you can become a better person. But that is hard to do. Okay, let's take a look here. Somebody says, maybe could you just do a time frame instead of chapters? This is our first time doing a book club, so we're like fumbling our way through it. So yeah, that might be a better idea, because this can definitely get going a little bit too long. Let's see, come back up here. Let's see.
Cody's
you could tell Leon was an only child despite not being an only child. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And again, like I said, there's that superiority that comes in because they're following the rules and your mom doesn't enforce the rules the way that other moms were forced. Let's see. Okay.
Well, and you can see that too in they've been you're being trained really, really well on how to become a polygamist, how to be conditioned to do that. And those kids that are rebellious, they're not going to be good polygamists. And so you might as well you get shamed from every angle. I have a brother that we've healed our relationship in the last 10 years and stuff, but I was rebellious. I was disappointing to the way we were raised. So, and yet we still, it was, we butted heads on religious matters and stuff, but still kind of get along. And now we kind of agree on the religious matters of it. So it's interesting.
That's been an interesting relationship to watch evolve. And that's the thing too, is that in this religion, you're always, I mean, in life in general, we're always evolving into different people, hopefully a better version of our previous selves. That's what we're hoping for. But this, this religion absolutely brings out the ugly in people. So then she goes on to talk about her intimate relationship with Cody.
And not just because of the garments. So.
Right. So she talks about, she says, with Cody, things weren't exactly inspiring. She always had to initiate sex. This is a teaching that we are taught, that if a woman ever initiates sex with a man, he can't tell her no. He shouldn't tell her no. Let me say it that way. He shouldn't tell her no, but the woman should always initiate and bring him to the bedroom. That's what we were always taught. I was always taught that. But that's hard when you have such a low self-esteem and you wonder if he even wants you or even wants to be a part of your intimate life. And which so
creates a circle. So he's not coming to the door knocking on going, rawr, should we be doing some of this
How
stuff?
Does that go again?
So because he's being pious in his way and she's being pious in her way.
I might close the door tonight and see if he comes knocking like that. Let's see. That'll be funny. She goes, in return for meh sex.
This is my favorite. This is a slap, slap, slap. So now tell the whole thing.
Yeah, that Cody required a back massage, which would turn into a full body massage. He never offered or returned the favor. Oh my gosh.
Foreplay was for Cody.
It was for Cody, yeah. He's the only one who mattered in this. Yeah. And then she goes,
he had to get it worked up to do it. So.
And my mom was a massage therapist. This is where this falls so in line with my mom and dad. And then she would ask him to return the favor and he'd say, it's not a turn on for me. Who says that to their wife? This guy is
a priesthood holder.
Is a priesthood holder. Thank
you.
A
priesthood holder says that.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
That I move away from pain.
Yeah.
Towards pleasure.
The foreplay was for Cody. And then she says, I don't know if my sister wives gave Cody massages, but we never talked about what happened or didn't happen in the bedroom. But I felt like I had to give him a massage so he would have sex with me. I qualified it as the special thing I did. Oh my God.
This is in the priesthood holder's handbook on how to control.
You guys got a handbook?
No, we didn't. Never a priesthood holder. I got the handbook taken away. Sorry.
Oh my gosh. This part infuriates me because my dad treated my mom exactly the same way. but because my mom was a massage therapist, that's what she did. So if he was going to another wife's house, he would come to my mom's house first and he'd be like, I don't feel very good. Can you work on me? And then she would. And then he'd go to the next wife's house.
Foreplay and fluffer.
Oh, what the hell? You did not just say that. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's exactly how it was. So she spent so many nights crying, she says. If I just tried harder, our relationship might improve. One night I told him that I felt neglected by him, and his response was,
I move away from the pain and towards the pleasure. Sorry, lady. So
maybe you shouldn't.
Become more pleasurable.
Just keep sweet. Just keep doing it. And then she asks herself, does my pleasure matter at all? Which is interesting because most of us don't even think to ask ourselves that question, because no, we're taught from a very young age, it doesn't matter. It's not about pleasure. It's about creating righteous children.
Not about pleasure for the woman. He needs the foreplay. He needs the pleasure. So
Oh my God.
it's oxymorons. So
Yeah, it's so ridiculous. Like this whole part just pisses me off. Because then she says to him, you're an idiot. Because I couldn't even imagine saying something so hurtful to another person. And he says, I'm not smart, but I'm honest. No, you're not. You're a douchebag. That's the difference. I said I wasn't going to call people names on our channel. Dang it. But this one is just so infuriating because
he's a priesthood holder.
my ex-husband would say the same things to me. And so this one hits a little bit. This one, I still have some unresolved trauma around this one.
Again, they had a handbook. I swear if they're saying the same things, they got it from somewhere. They got a handbook. I just didn't get the handbook because I didn't put together a contract or something.
Right.
So I'm sure it's in the, I'll figure it out. There's probably a handbook that they get when they go through their endowment house of how to treat women.
Yeah.
So,
well, and she says, speaking off the cuff is not honesty. We don't just spit out our truth. And then she says, everything hurt, but we had children together. And my grandpa had married us for all eternity in a wedding ceremony. Again, these are the things that just keep piling on top of each other over the years, where you're just like, I have to stay here. I don't have a choice. I will never have a pleasurable or happy marriage because I have to stay married.
well, that's another good question for whoever asked the question before about Mary and Bonnie. It's a good question for Christine, and because she didn't leave until after Owen had passed. So
True.
So
did she stay married to Cody
because of that
Owen was still alive?
Because Owen was the one that married them, and she didn't want to discipline or disappoint her grandfather's blessing or what have you.
Right.
And that's probably another reason that she doesn't care to go get a release either. So.
Right. That would make sense. I'm curious I understand that because I wasn't going to get one either because I just like, screw these guys. I don't care. But I'm glad that I did because it did give closure to that energy.
Yeah.
And so
it would be breaking something apart that her
grandpa put together,
and it'll get worked out in the afterlife.
But she says in here, we were taught to continue to work on ourselves to make ourselves better so we could earn our award in heaven. This is what we're taught our entire lives. When things get too hard, just remember you're earning your award in heaven. Like, you have to keep doing these things or you will not get rewarded in heaven. So you trudge through these hurt feelings. And she says, but it's hard to work on yourself when you feel like you're worth nothing at all. And this is so true. I felt that way all the time. I 100% understand where women in this religion, and there's no girls in this religion. Let's just be honest. Because why? Nobody comes to you and says, you're going to feel like nothing. You're going to feel like you don't matter. You're going to feel like that you're absolutely worth nothing, but it'll get better, but it'll get this way. No one's ever honest with each other. No one ever came to me and said, your husband's going to treat you like complete shit, and you should probably work through that. There's going to be days when you're going to be angry. There's going to be days when you're going to be sad. There's going to be days when you feel like you don't matter. And this is another reason why I'm so proud of Christine for saying that she went on antidepressants. There's absolutely nothing wrong with going on an antidepressant if it's needed. And so many. I'm gonna put a shot out there and say probably 70% of women in polygamy are on some sort of antidepressant, and they never talk about it because there's so much shame around it, and because they get to the point where they literally feel like they're worth absolutely nothing. And how could you feel like you were worth anything when it's a constant one-way give, and there's nothing that you ever receive? So yeah, I think that it's a hard. So there's the end of chapter 9. Let's see. Do we have? I've been trying to catch the comments as we've been trying to go through. I love the way how Mary humored him in the ugliest way to make him look stupid. Yeah. Does anyone believe that Cody actually needed a massage? Did he ever do a hard day's work? Cory's sister Katie says, the few times Cody visited our home, I remember thinking, what a pompous ass. Yeah, that's very true. Most people felt that way about him. So I wish there was more girls in polygamy, but there isn't. So, all right, we're in the home stretch, people. Thanks for hanging out with us for so long. And again, if you haven't been able to be the whole live, that's totally fine. We will throw chapters into the show notes so that you can get them. Let's see. So
chapter 10, my favorite chapter.
Yeah, Cory loves this chapter. He loves the title of this chapter. So go ahead and read that, love.
The LDS Church, church's bastard children, and that's absolutely who we are. So,
yep, because we are just a branch off from the LDS Church, from the Mormon Church. People will get all up and set in my comments and say blah blah blah, all the things, but it is. Maybe do more research in your church if you don't know that. But so
we're the embarrassing. Well, the AUB is the embarrassing. We're not, because of my excommunications. So, but the AUB was the polygamist cults are the embarrassing bastard children of the LDS Church. It's something that was a part of their early religion that they have now let go, and yet some of their faithful have went, nope, we're going to continue it because we believe that it's supposed to be around. So.
Yeah. So she talks about how she worked for the church, which she did. She taught at the school. So she was less worried about getting fired. And there was a group called Principal Voices. One of my other mothers is one of the founders of Principal Voices, a pro-polygamy group that said, we need Christine. And she became part of the coalition. And so they went around and they talked about trying to be advocates for polygamy. So one of my other mothers and one of her best friends started Principal Voices. And so they'd go up to different places and talk about polygamy, trying to make it so that, in emergency situations, people still got the care that they needed. She felt like she was following in her grandpa's footsteps, speaking up to keep the community safe.
Yeah, and I would say that's exactly what she was doing as far as Owen's footsteps too. Owen was trying to make people aware of it, say, hey, we are the normal polygamists, and so let's assimilate, if you will.
Yeah.
So let's make it normal for us to assimilate and talk to each other and communicate. So
yeah. So she just talks about how, she would get up there and say, oh, I love my freedom. I love da-da-da, but you're not really free because you have a million kids. You can't leave if you wanted to leave. So she talks about freedom. She talks about having a monogamous relationship sounded like a ball and chain. These are key phrases we were taught. Yeah. Oh, you don't want to have a monogamous relationship. It's so exhausting. You never have. Yeah, it's a sales pitch. That's exactly what it is. If you're a ball and chain, I sure like having a ball and chain because I think that you're amazing. And I don't want to have a different relationship. But she said questions signaled danger. She didn't like to take questions. She had a prepared speech that she would give, and she wanted to stick to that. She also said it was scary for anybody to go public because polygamy was a felony in Utah. She talks about, we had to look it up to see which shooting that there was, but there was a shooting between it was a Singer swap shooting where they ended up killing a police officer and then they were killed. So we had to look that up because I couldn't remember which one it was,
Yeah,
but I do remember when it
hearing
happened.
about it.
Yeah, in 1988, I was in the 8th grade.
Yeah, I remember hearing about it. There was a couple different things that went on, but usually it was because they were the fringe or the nutty polygamists out, and
they were the crazy ones that would make it on TV, not us.
Ones that made it on, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, and then she talks about she didn't like intimate one-on-one conversations because she was so used to having to lie about her background that if she had a one-on-one conversation, she wouldn't, it's too intimidating for her. She doesn't want to sit there and look someone in the eye and lie to them. She can stand on a stage and make it sound better than it was, but a one-on-one, she'd have to lie. What?
Or honesty, I don't know, or honesty would come out. Is that what she's saying?
Yeah, she just says intimate one-on-one conversation scared her because she was used to lying about who she was.
Oh, okay.
Yep, those are her words in the book.
Yeah.
So then she talks about they had a forum with lawmakers and attorney generals and the governor, which they did. I remember this. And she talks about women essentially have no rights in polygamous divorces. A polygamous wife will never report abuse if the marriage is a federal crime. And I think this is what the Browns were going for the entire time, was trying to make it so that they could, that abuse gets reported more because people aren't afraid of being arrested. That they were wanted to be recognized as husbands who provided for large families rather than guys that have illicit affairs. And that would be awesome if most of these men actually did provide for these families, but they don't. Most of them are on state assistance. Most of them are on government, some sort of government relief. So that would be awesome if that was the truth, but I don't feel like that is the truth.
It was up in Pinesdale, though.
Well, because you guys were you guys were self-sufficient.
We were
here in Utah. We are not self-sufficient.
We were a commune where everybody brought to the table, so nobody wanted anything to do with there. I'm not saying that there are some families up there that weren't on some sort of assistant, but most people up there weren't. They were up there working to build the community. So well, and she talks about how she believes Warren Jeffs is evil, but there's probably some goodness in the people in that group. This is one thing that does frustrate me, is it's like, we want acceptance, we want love, we want people to understand who we are and where we're coming from, but then they don't offer that same courtesy to other people. So she talks about the FLDS and how she believes that, she says, these are her words, but there's probably goodness in some of the people in that group. And that's kind of hard for me to read, because here we are trying to give grace to people. There's a lot of good people in the AUB. There's a lot of good people in the FLDS. What do you want? Well, because down here further, she says that that if we don't give them grace,
then they won't come. Yeah, right here.
They won't come out of the.
She says, besides, what happens if we say all these horrible things and someone's trying to get out and they can't, because they can't get past our judgment of them.
Exactly.
And that's the truth. That's one of the reasons why we do try to give so much grace to the people in the AUB, because they're not all bad people. And we know that there's good people in there. And if someone wants to get out, but they feel like they can't because they can't get past the judgment. Yeah.
And because somebody looked past their judgment and gave me grace when I was coming out.
Exactly.
So, and I appreciate that. And so I will return that favor for the next generation, the next group of people coming out of these highly controlled institutions. So.
Yeah. And she talks about how child abuse in polygamous communities often goes unreported because no one will ever call the police. They don't want to be arrested. And we were told, I was told this, you can't call the police. They will come and take your dad away. I was told that my entire life.
Yeah, it'll destroy the whole family.
Yep. You'll never see your mom again. You'll never see your siblings again. She says some kids and women are so secluded that they don't know that this abuse is, or that they don't know what's abusive and what is normal.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yes. Had no clue that the difference. believed every
Yeah.
beating I got, I deserved. So I
Yeah.
had done
We didn't
something.
know
We
that
didn't know it
if
was
your dad, beat you with a 2x4, that's not normal.
That was discipline, and we deserved it.
Yeah.
And then we chose probably ought not to do that to our kids. So I don't want to pass on that same feeling that I had when I was a kid.
Yeah,
And
we
that
literally,
I
I did not know that you could not take a 2x4 to a child. I didn't know that. That's how I was raised. I was beat with a 2x4 more often than I can count. And so, but we didn't know we could call the police. We did have DCFS called on our family numerous times, and we were threatened every single time on how to answer. And so
you did. We didn't even, I don't think.
Well, because you were in a whole community where everybody protected everybody.
Yeah, we didn't even have a clue what that was growing up.
Yeah. So she says, if you decriminalize polygamy, the actual crimes of abuse can come to light. As for the adults in polygamous relationships, the grown consenting adults, why does anyone care? That's the problem, is most of these marriages are not happening between grown consenting adults. They might be, the child might have just turned 18. Then they're legally an adult. That might be.
But if they are grown consensual adults, and I agree with her 100% there.
Right.
And then that's where there are already laws on the books and other things that he's moved the age up, stuff like that. So I'm agreeing with her. This is an eye-opening. This is why they wanted to start their show.
Yeah. Well, try to encourage people to turn in abusive behavior, but what do you do when it's your own leadership that are abusing them? That's hard, because you don't want to believe that this righteous man of God is prostituting out his daughters. You don't want to believe this righteous,
right?
Yeah.
So if that's who he was, and then
you don't want to believe this righteous man of God is sexually abusing his daughters and having children with them. You don't want to believe that as a leader. So then when this actually comes to light, which it has in the AUB, these exact scenarios, then they don't want to turn him into the police. They don't want to do these things, because it depends. Again, I feel like we go back to this all the time. The AUB makes up the rules as they go along. It depends on who you are. It depends on your last name, if you get turned in or not.
Yeah.
So she says,
and they'll just be removed if they get jail time, right? So
then they just get removed and someone else gets put into leadership. I literally said to my dad one time, my dad is, if you don't know, my dad is the current leader of the AUB. I literally said to my dad one time, oh my gosh, Dad, do you guys even pray about who you put in your leadership? Because you've got a lot of sexual abusers in your leadership. And he was not very happy with that question. He's snapped back at me. Of course we do. Why, blah, blah, blah. And really, God puts all these sexual abusers in your leadership, and he says, we don't know the ways of God. That's always the default answer. We don't know the ways of God. But
it was a teaching 50 years ago. So
it was. And so she says that she always felt like everyone knew who they were, because restaurants don't accommodate big groups of people. She felt like that they always stuck out. Like everybody knew, and in some cases, because polygamists dress like the FLDS, they dress as if they arrived with Brigham Young in 1847. And that is very true. A lot of people still in the AUB still dress like this. We didn't always dress like this, but we always had the long braids and the long hair. I mean, look at Mary and Janelle and Christine at the very beginning. They looked their dress was so completely different than it is now. She said it was weird she said it was a weird mix of wanting to be proud of our family and our faith, and then not wanting to be stared at. I 100% can relate to that. That they would sit it up. And then this is the part where Cory's like, you guys about to go to a movie theater? What are you talking about? So, because we didn't always get to go to movies. So she's talking about they're in New York City now, and they're being able to take their kids out. In New York City, nobody cared what they did, what they looked like. So they're at a restaurant, and she said, it had always been us being paranoid about the outside world. I had put limitations on myself based on a fear of a thing that didn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. when people see large groups of people, their last assumption is that they must be polygamous. And I agree with that. I think the only way you're going to think someone's a polygamist is if you see one guy walking around holding wives with multiple women.
The only way you probably think that they're, I mean, now it's more common, but the only way that they would ever think that you're a polygamist is if the person who was a polygamist. I could pick out other polygamists in there, but other people, well, yeah, I don't have Robin's skill, but I knew different polygamists.
I can typically tell if somebody's a polygamist.
Yeah.
Not all the time, but sometimes I can.
Because we came from that group, but people who came without that, not within the group, would just, oh, that's a large Mormon family, or that's, yeah, large Catholic family, whatever.
Yeah.
Group you came from, you try to see if you can pick it out. So
yeah. So she enjoyed this trip to New York. She's talking about, she talks about she had been public with principal voices, but never with her whole family together. And so she realized that none of the people in the audience, so now they're in New York and they're speaking, and she realizes no one cared if they lived plural marriage. They were just curious, and they didn't seem to be judging, and they weren't rude. And that's a lot of, I feel like this is what I'm saying. I feel like our whole country has evolved in let people just live their lives. There's not the same criticism now that there was back then. And so that's what she said. It's a good reminder that her family members are also Americans, mostly average, who love this nation just like anyone else. Most of them are God-fearing people that love their country, that love their families, and they really do try to do what's right. It's not every family's abusive. Not every family does these types of things. There is a patriarchy, however, in every family.
Yeah.
There is, that is true.
Well, it's based off the religious belief that the patriarchy, priesthood leader, head of the family, all of those things. That's what. It's in the very teachings. So
yeah,
it's just the way it is, and it depends on how that priesthood leader, that head of the family, decides to wield his authority. Yeah. So some are decent human beings, the other ones are Warren Jeffs. So there's a spectrum of all of them on there. So spectrum kind of goes from, I don't know, Cody to Warren Jeffs. So
yeah,
the best of them to the worst of them.
Yeah. And then she talks about how Tim Gibbons had come to them and wanted to make the Sister Wives show, and he saw it as a civil rights issue. And none of them were married, but Cody and Mary. And he says, we are essentially the LDS children's bastard children.
LDS Church bastard children.
Yeah. I didn't say that very correctly, did it? And so media the local media, which this is true. I really highly agree with this. The local media represented unfairly because of the stereotypes. What you think about it is perfectly fine for a married guy to cheat on his wife with several women and have several babies. So she talks about that. And that's very disheartening when you live this lifestyle and you're like, wait, it's okay for you to just cheat on your wife, have a bunch of kids, but it's not okay for me to try to take care of my family. So she says, here we were just raising our children together, paying our taxes, going to church, and causing no problems, but at the risk of having our family torn apart because we were considered immoral. She said, after talking to Tim, they realized it would be a great opportunity for them to show the world what a polygamous family isn't all about control, patriarchy, teen marriages, and abuse. In other words, what people saw on the news and in the evening papers was not the truth. And again, not every family is that way, but it still happens. And so then she talks about they went to TLC and TLC loved the idea. So there's the end of chapter 10. And I think, again, I want to reiterate, she does say, this is the other groups, not us, but it does happen in the AUB. I was a teen bride. I got married 8 days after I turned 17.
There's not cases within the AUB.
Right.
So there really are. So
right. So
yeah,
so she does talk about these things. Let me go through here and I'll answer just a couple of questions. Let's see. Is there any questions you want to make sure we answer?
No, yeah, I'm having a hard time. I need my glasses on, so.
I thought you could read that just fine. Let's see. Are there no women who could be activists in their own community? I don't know if I might have missed something right there. Let's see. I'm trying to
There are. Christine she is a bear. She was very passionate and very well spoken about the polygamist, and she was right. They were all raising family together. They were all doing it. There was problems in it, but they were all showing that, hey, we can live any way we want. And I feel like all three of those wives would have loved him to the end if it hadn't got so exposed and if he hadn't told his truth over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Sugar Inno says, are there any positive changes happening in the polygamist community? Truthfully, we really hoped that there would be, especially with my dad becoming the leader. I thought things would change and be different, but
so did I.
It's been very disappointing. I feel like he has almost become more of a dictator than some of the previous prophets, and it's been really disheartening to watch it, to be honest. There's a lot more discontent in the AUB now than I think I've ever seen. There's a lot of people really angry about some of the stuff that's going on in the AUB now. So yeah,
people are tired of putting, just like within Cody's family, you work, you put into the United Order, you put into the kingdom, and then you have leaders who aren't very honorable with that money and almost cost people everything that they worked for, almost cost them the United Order. And so now the people are kind of saying, you guys need to be held accountable. And so we need to break this up so it's more diversified. So because of one stupid mistake, we don't lose all of our land and homes and everything like that. And they're like, no, we're in control of this. You got new leadership now, we're in control of it.
Yeah.
And that's where the play is. They want more accountability from their leaders, and their leaders are the same old leaders that don't want to give any sort of accountability.
Very true.
The Lord's talking that I should only be accountable to the big guy. I don't have to be accountable to you little people.
Yeah.
And so this is all the other little guys within the community. And so it's a huge shakeup within so do I see it getting better? Not anytime soon.
Not with the current leadership.
And here's the thing, the harder it gets, the more that this behavior goes on, the more that they tighten up their restrictions, try to hold on to their people, the more people wake up and start to leave.
Yeah.
So it's not always a bad thing when you have leadership like this in putting a stranglehold on their people.
Very
so
true.
Only the most devout are going to be hanging around for things. A lot of them will just start to pull back, pull away, leave. And then when they're not being in church every week being indoctrinated, they start to wake up from the trance that they've been in, or the belief system that they've been in. So,
very true. Someone says, so Robin would fit in well with the leaders. Yeah.
Yeah, she could marry very quickly back into leadership if she needed to.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. And I've noticed quite a few comments about the kids. It's very true. There's a lot of really good kids that come out of this situation, because they know what it's like to be in such a screwed up situation. So they want something different. So they come out and they're most of the time very good, honest people who work hard. They're hard workers because we're taught to work our entire lives. So, so I can see that
very
too.
Young, you're taught, you're working to build up the kingdom of God and put some money into the family, family pot. So, you worked and gave to the family.
Yeah. So hopefully everybody enjoyed this part of the book club. Thank you guys for, if you were able to stick it out, thank you. If not, again, we understand it's a really long live.
Holy cow.
We will put chapters in on the live. It might take a minute for our system to create the chapters, but we will make sure that the chapters, so if there's something specific you want to go look at, you can go to that. We're winging it as long as it comes with the book club. We don't know what we're doing. So hopefully this is going good.
Yeah. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. We'll try to get in there and answer those ones.
Or feel free to email us too. We've gotten quite a few emails on questions, and we're creating a question and answer video now so that we can answer some of those questions for you. So that should be coming up here in the next couple of days as well. So thank you guys all for joining us and sticking it out for the 3.5 hour long video. And we will also be getting our song out there. So hopefully you guys, if you heard it at the beginning, hopefully you enjoyed it.
Are we going to just play it at the end here?
Or? I guess we could. It's just we don't know how to play it where we're not sitting here just staring at the camera. That feels awkward.
Okay.
So we'll just make a video.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, because we don't know how to do it where we're just sitting here and you're not just like, oh, hey, what are you guys doing? Just chilling, listening to us. We'll get all emotional too.
Yeah,
Do you want to cry while we're listening to it? Because our kid is so sweet.
Yeah, our kid thinks highly of us, and I appreciate that. She's a sweetheart for that.
So watch for our other videos. We're watching Sister Rise for the first time. We're on season 4, episode 3. So that video will be coming out in a few days too. We're also making the video about how we met. So that video will be coming out here soon too. So yeah, we got a lot on our plate right now. A lot of videos we're looking at that we're making. So
please give us a thumbs up.
Like it, subscribe.
Do
leave
all
any
that
questions in the comments.
Yeah, we love answering questions. So
thanks everyone.